Welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. We got Brandon Turner in the house today.
What? You got Brandon Turner?
That's Turner.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. You must have had to pay him a lot of money for this.
Tons. A fortune. How to sell the real estate.
Exactly.
Fun today.
It's worth it, man. It's worth it.
It is. Listen up, guys.
Well, I'm excited to be here, man. This is going to be a good time. We just got done interviewing you on the Better Life podcast, and it was fire. Hour and 40 minutes, man. Spitting fire you did.
We just talked a lot.
We talked a lot of good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. But hopefully I can repay the favor and we'll go an hour and 40 minutes of good stuff. We'll see.
No, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, man.
I started the podcast January of this year. And when I did, I made a list of people I'd want on and then who I thought would be insane to be on, like the dream list. And you were number 2.
Wow.
Literally number 2 on the dream list.
Number 1 is Tony?
Tony.
How do we get Tony? How can I help you?
Dude, we need to get Tony.
So I'll interview Tony.
And then
I don't know if I can get Tony either.
You could for sure get Tony.
If I get Tony,
you could get Tony.
Then I'll drop your name and we'll get you Tony.
That'd be so.
You put it out in the universe.
Would cry. We would do the podcast. I'd just be stressed like the whole time.
You just wherever we film it, you just come in. You're like you're the camera help.
Yeah,
you're just like hanging out, just like brushed by Tony a little bit. Just like feel his shirt, get the power from him.
Struck me with a lightning bolt, bro. Like he's a powerful dude. But
all right, we're gonna do it. Conspiracy to get Tony
Robbins. That'd be so sick.
Well, I'll try to be a good number 2.
I would cry. But no, Brandon I've looked up to for a long time.
Literally also.
Literally forever.
I'm awkwardly tall.
Looked up to. I actually met Brandon. Shout out to Brody Fawcett.
Brody.
InvestorCon just like a month ago.
Yeah.
And paid a little bit extra for more proximity. The highest tier ticket included dinner with all the speakers. And then the next day we got to hang out at Dave Allred's house. Yeah. Shout out Dave Allred.
Dave. And that dude. We went to a concert together a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was sick.
That's sick.
I went to the When We Were Young punk rock music festival. He came with him. Yeah, him and his wife.
Heck
awesome.
Yeah. No, Dave's the stud. I actually just had Dave on my podcast.
Oh, nice.
He's a beast.
He's a stud, yeah.
He's a big door-to-door guy too. But yeah, we got to hang out at Dave Allred's house for about 6 hours. And I just followed you around and freaking, talk to you about a
list of questions. You just knocked them off.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It was a good time.
But no, like honestly, I've followed you for a long time. I'll read the bio on Brandon before we keep talking because you guys I'm sure 99% of you know who Brandon is, but for those of you that don't, might just be really confused right now.
This might be a new audience. Yeah, they're like, this guy is really high energy and he's annoying. And that's my goal here.
But if you don't know who Brandon is, he is my number 1 most favorite real estate investing guru.
Woo!
So he's written how many books? 3, 4?
I mean, technically 5.
Heck yeah.
It gets a little complex, but yeah, technically 5, but some are partnership books. So
and they're freaking good. Every single one of them. If you guys want to get into real estate investing, go read every book by Brandon Turner. It's like the best thing you could do. The book on real estate investing specifically is probably my favorite.
Thanks, man.
And the multifamily millionaire?
Yeah.
Part 1?
Yeah.
Fire. Thanks, I haven't read part 2 yet, but
yeah, part 2,
too.
Brian Murray wrote most of part 2. I wrote most part 1, but we kind of both shared a little bit. But my favorite actually is probably the Multifamily Millionaire.
Yeah.
Of all the things I've written, because that was the newest one, but it's the one I was the most mature and smart when I wrote that one. Like still a long way from super really successful, good. But it's my most current book. So thank you.
Really good. I think I started part 2, but I got bored because you didn't write it. So you might need to go write part 2.
Part 2 is just it's like the next level. Like part 2, part 1 is like, how do you buy small, duplex, fourplex, whatever.
Yeah.
Part 2 is how do you buy a 30 unit or 100 unit?
Yeah. Multifamily.
And it's much more
comprehensive.
Bigger. Yeah. And so most people don't need part 2 until they've got a bunch of part 1s done.
Heck yeah. But yeah, written a lot of best-selling books on real estate investing. He is the former host of the biggest real estate podcast on the planet, BiggerPockets. That's where I heard of you for the first time.
That show was massive. Still is big. I don't know their numbers anymore. But
not as massive now that Brandon left.
Well, yeah, I have no idea. But we had 100 million downloads when I left. That was our
insane. It was such a good podcast, not just for real estate investors, but just for life in general. You guys had Patrick David on there, Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Literally
Matthew
anyone.
McConaughey. That was a wild episode.
Really? Haven't listened. I need to listen to that
one. It was so freaking good. Nothing to do about real estate. It was awesome though.
So cool.
Matthew McConaughey is one of my favorite people in the world. Not that we're not friends. I haven't talked to him since, but That day, that was a wild interview.
That's so awesome.
Good. Yeah, I prepared for weeks.
Really?
Like weeks.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
So go listen if you want to the old BiggerPockets episodes, or better yet, just listen to his new podcast, Better Life, which he's the host of, and I had the opportunity to be guest on that.
You were, yeah.
So
it's very similar. I modeled a lot of Better Life. Like the early episodes were more personal development. Now it's a little more real estate geared. Yeah. But it's very much modeled off of the stories of real estate investors, which is why I wanted you to come on. Because I'm like, oh, you're just like a real estate investor.
Trying.
Yeah, you don't have a course that you're selling right now or anything on real estate. So it's like, you're just a normal person. So
that's right.
It was a good episode. Go listen to it.
Trying to do abnormal things.
Yeah, exactly. Normal people doing abnormal things. That's a quote like on a t-shirt.
It should be.
Dude, yeah, that's it. It's a quote. That's a good band name too.
I'm just a normal person doing abnormal things.
Abnormal things.
Aspiring to do abnormal things.
Yeah, when I'm going to make a punk rock band called Abnormal Things, and that's going to be the name. It's going to be awesome. You can play guitar. I'll play drums. It'll be great. All right. Did you play guitar?
No.
You got to learn, man. You're in a band now.
Hey, my brother-in-law plays the drums. He'll
Perfect. All right. Yeah.
He also is the founder and main guy. He started Open Door Capital, which has raised over $480 million and purchased over $1 billion in assets in the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, wild.
That's insane.
It's insane.
And I was like, I've followed you through that whole journey. So it's just been insane to watch you just, because you had like, what, 20 units a couple years ago? Yeah. And now you have, what, 13,000?
Yeah. Yeah, it was you ever seen like those graphs, like hockey stick, like
That's
curves?
You.
Yeah. Like it just took off.
Because you had how many units?
I had 32. And then I went to 100 and then I went to 13,000. So it was like, but it took me 10 years to get to the 30, which is wild. And then it took me 4 years or whatever more, 4 or 5 years to get to the 13,000. It just took 10 years of practicing before I got decent at it.
You need to knock off Benjamin Hardy's 2X is better than 10X.
Yeah, exactly.
2X is better than, easier than 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000X. That's
a million X.
1,000X is way easier than 2X.
It's so cool. He is also the husband to Heather and the father of 2, almost 3 kids.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's going to be 3 here in a few weeks.
Awesome.
Pretty excited about that.
And he is a white belt in jiu-jitsu.
I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu. I've been a white belt for many years, and I probably should try to get better.
Dude, jiu-jitsu has actually been a sport I've always wanted to get into.
It's so fun, man.
But haven't, because it'd just be badass to be able to hold your own. And
you know what finally got me into it, actually?
What?
It's a good lesson. I'm on a podcast just like this with a guy named Jocko Willink. You know Jocko?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Extreme Ownership.
Yep. So I'm on a podcast, BiggerPockets. You can listen to it. People can listen to it. I'm on a podcast with Jocko, and I'm assuming this part made the final cut, but he's talking about jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I've always wanted to do that. And he goes, always want to do that? When are you going to do it? And I was like, He's like, what day? And I was like, I'm going to go on Monday. He's like, great. I want you to text me when you go and let me know you did. I'm like, okay, I will.
Really?
It's like his number and like text him. So I went on Monday. It's a long story. I won't go on the whole thing, but basically I showed up 5 minutes late because I got lost and I'm an idiot. And so I show up there. And then if you've never been to a jiu-jitsu gym, it is incredibly intimidating when you walk in. In fact, I brought my daughter for the first time a few weeks ago, and she just cried when they started. It's intimidating because everyone's like shouting things and saying words in other languages, and then like they all got their routines, and everyone's dressed in a white gi, and you're just like, anyway. So I show up 5 minutes late, and the lady at the front desk is like, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I wanted to jujitsu, and I didn't even know the word. I'm like, I want to do that, and the lady's like, what'd you Google this or something? And I'm like, well, yeah, I Googled. She's like, well, I don't know. Just go sit over there. And like, she's like, points to this bench. And on the bench is 3 little kids, like 3 years old, 5 years old, 5 years old, whatever. And there's like one spot in between them. And it's like this short little bench, for little kids. And she points there. And I had to go sit on that little bench and just sit there, like watching for an hour. It was like the most humiliating thing. But I was like, no, I told Jocko that I was going to go on Monday. So here I am on Monday. And it was absolutely terrible and intimidating and awful. And I left after an hour finally. I was like, okay, I did enough to tell him I went. Didn't get the role, but I went, and I texted him. He never texted me back.
but you did it.
But I did it. This is the power of accountability, though, why I'm such a big freak about accountability. I call it like extreme accountability. Not like I'm going to tell you, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, and then you don't care. Extreme accountability is like, I'm going to go to the gym or else I'm going to wear a dress to dinner tomorrow. Like, that's extreme accountability. Like, I'm going to do that thing. And so when Jocko's like, you better do this, and you text me, you let me know you did. I'm like, okay, now I have to go. So Anyway, not that you're asking for lessons, but lesson number 1 today is like, get somebody like somehow in your life that holds you extremely accountable to stuff. If you even struggle remotely with self-discipline, which I do. I struggle immensely with self-discipline. I would rather sit on TikTok all day long and do nothing but lay in bed and eat Cheetos. Like if I had my way about it, that's all I'd do. Cheetos, TikTok. That's it.
Wow.
I have to figure out how to hack that lack of self-discipline.
That's awesome. Like, so basically, and make it painful.
Yes.
Too, if you don't hit whatever you say you're going to do.
Yeah. Every single quarter, I set a goal every quarter. I have a whole goal setting framework I do. But like every quarter I set 3 goals, and every one of those goals of the 3, I have to pick a reward and a punishment for each one. And it's not like I'm going to beat myself with a rod, like if I don't do it, but it's something like wear a dress to dinner, or this one, if I don't buy a pad split, like a rent by the room house, for my kid, I'm buying a property for my son Wilder. If I don't do that by December 31st, I have to spend 10 minutes in a cold plunge. Like my record is 5, like in a 39-degree cold plunge.
Yeah.
10 minutes though is going to kill me. I did 5 the other day. I was shaking so bad. I couldn't see right.
It takes like all day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I got to do 10 minutes if I don't buy So am I going to buy the pad split? Yes, I'm going to buy the pad split. Like I will force my way into it.
I love that.
Yeah. Extreme accountability.
I love that.
Yeah.
Make it painful and make it pleasurable. Hit your goals.
Yep. And if I get it right, I think I promised myself those like Apple ear, like the big Apple headphones, like the big ones. Like they're like $600. I'm never I'm rich, right? I got a lot of money. I'm never going to spend $600 on a pair of headphones. That's ridiculous. But if I buy a pad split for my kid, I'm going to buy myself a $600 pair of headphones, and I won't buy it unless I do that. So. Wow. Yeah, reward punishment. It's huge motivation.
I think a lot of people think of accountability as like they need someone else to check off their work. But you mean like hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, you can hold yourself accountable, or you can have somebody else, or you can get both. That's why I'm a huge fan of like coaching and performance coaching. I mean, like the best golfer in the world, like Tiger Woods, whatever, like has a coach. Like the best basketball players in the world have coaches. Why? Because like just because you're good at something doesn't mean you couldn't get better or have somebody else look at it and give you better. So coaches can keep you accountable. And yeah, really, they're not like I have a performance coach, right? I meet with every single week. He's not going, okay, well, so what are you going to eat for, your meal on Thursday? Like he's not holding me accountable. He's not driving to my house. He's not making me do the work. I'm holding myself accountable, but I'm doing it by talking with that person. So anyway, so yeah, just letting somebody know what you're trying to do and having regular accountability with them increases the chance like dramatically. There's a study done that basically goes like, if you just have a goal, like I want to lose 20 pounds. The chance of getting that done is like 10% of you accomplishing it. And then if you like write down the goal, it's like 35%. And if you like do this, anyway, you keep going through this progression of different, more extreme measures to get it. If you have an accountability appointment weekly with somebody, it goes to 95% of getting that. Yeah, just by weekly meeting with somebody trying to hold you accountable. And so like my entire life, I've always tried to have somebody in my life that I meet with regularly for accountability. And when I had no money, it was just a group of buddies that would get together. But I'd rather have a paid person because then I'm paying them to do it. And so they have to do it versus buddies who just, they're busy and you miss calls and all that. So today I pay for it, but huge fan of that.
I love that. Where did you get that from? Was that like a book, or you don't know where you got it from?
I don't know. I just know in my life, I've always, when I meet with somebody regularly, I just am way better. And part of that's like the people pleaser in me is I don't want to let them down. I want them to think bad about me.
That's part of the pain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be on the coaching call and just be like, yeah, I didn't do this.
Exactly.
I didn't do that.
Yeah. So I put it out there, and then I tend to live up to it better.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I think about like so many people probably think, oh, I'm too good to hire a coach, but like you have $1 billion in assets and you're still paying for coaching.
Yeah, the best people on the planet hire coaches, the worst people don't. And so there's something about that, right? Like
for sure. I even think about Michael Jordan and Kobe. They both had Tim Grover as their coach and
they have a team of coaches.
Oh,
I got a buddy named Tommy Mello. Tommy's he might be a billionaire. He's probably a billionaire by now. He owns a huge garage door company. They do a ton of door-to-door stuff, but he is phenomenal. But he was telling me the other day, he's got a coach for like every single area of his life, including like pickleball. And he's got a coach for he's like, if I want to get good at something, I'm going to go find who's amazing at it, who coaches people, and they're going to coach me. So he's got like 12 coaches. I have like 2. But it's like, why not? If a coach can help Kobe Bryant, a coach can help Michael Jordan or help Tiger Woods, couldn't a coach help you with your door-to-door sales or with your real estate or with your weight loss or whatever? Like, yeah, coaching huge.
And learning from people that do it the highest level.
Yes.
That's huge too. Like don't get Just don't go get marriage advice from, your mom who's divorced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like go learn from experts that actually have done it and do it at the highest level.
Yeah, that's actually, there's a good, we talk a lot about mentors, right? And trying to find people that will mentor you. It's a common phrase, like, will you be my mentor? Which is an awkward phrase to say to somebody, but people do it, right? With mentorship, I'm a huge fan of it. You should have mentors. Mentors are important and all that. But you have to be careful with mentors too, because like you get the divorced, person giving you marriage advice, right? You can listen to that person. Here's a real example of that. A mentor of mine who got me into real estate, like largely helped me early on, once told me, don't do mobile home parks. They're a terrible investment, horrible idea. They're terrible. Don't do it. And I didn't listen to him. And now I own 7,000 mobile home houses around the country. It's the best investment I have. Like I love mobile homes. They're a phenomenal investment. So a mentor is going to give you their perspective. And so it's good to listen to their perspective, but you don't need to necessarily take everything a mentor says. Coaches, I'm a little bit more geared towards taking because they teach people how to do the stuff. So anyway, just the difference between a mentor and a coach. And then there's like accountability coaching, which is a whole different thing, which is more of like, hey, did you do your actions? Did you do your goals? It's less about like, here's how you shoot better, and more like, how many free throws did you make today? So
I love that.
Yeah.
Powerful already.
Well,
this has already been one.
I'm trying, man. All right.
So for those people that haven't heard of you or heard you talk or the podcast from you, what's your 1-minute background for someone that's never heard of you?
Yeah, my dad's a butcher. My mom did daycare. I grew up in a blue-collar home. Went to college, Minnesota. Went to college, graduated as quick as I possibly could. So like I did a bunch of like summer school and all that, and decided I'd be a lawyer. And so then in the process, I was applying for law school. I ended up buying a house because it was 2007. They'd give everyone a mortgage. So I bought a house because it was cheaper than renting. And then I sold it because I was like, thought maybe I'd go travel Europe for a year. So I was like, well, I could just sell my house. I sold it. I made 20 grand. I was like, oh, dang, that's real money. Like 20 grand. Like I'm 20 years old, made 20 grand. I was the richest person I knew. Like I had so much money.
It had just gone up in value.
Yeah, it just went up in value a little bit because I fixed it up. And I remember going like, wait a second, the average starting lawyer, if you don't go to like a top law school, like your starting salary is like $50K a year. It's not actually that much. And I mean, this is back 20 years ago, but I was like, dang, I made almost as much as a lawyer makes, and I just bought a house. I'm like, I should do this real estate thing. So then I started digging deep. I read 100 books at least on real estate investing over the course of a summer. I mean, I was just pounding through books. That's all I did. Obsessed.
Yeah.
Obsessed, man. And that's like almost everybody I know that is super successful, including your story that you told on my podcast, like they get obsessed with something for a little while.
Mamba mentality.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. That Mamba mentality of like, I'm freaking obsessed. I did that with real estate, and then 7 years later, I got into internet marketing, like blogging. Obsessed. I'd wake up at 2 a.m, so excited to learn more about internet blogging, and so I just like blogged from 2 a.m. Like I loved it. I don't know why. And then podcasting, and then Open Door Capital, and now everything I do. So
how'd you become the host of the BiggerPockets?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started buying real estate, like I said, when I was 20-ish. I decided not to go to law school. Bought a duplex, lived in half of it, rented the other half out, and then bought some more properties. We call that house hacking, right? Where you live in one unit, rent the other one out. I think you've done that. I've done that. I still do it to today. You'll see my house later today. I've got 2 extra units at my property. And so I love that way of getting into real estate, by the way. Every single person listening to this episode should consider house hacking, no matter how rich or poor you currently are. You can get into a deal for 5%, even 3% down, or if you're a military veteran, you can get 0% down. It's wild. So anyway, started house hacking my way into a bunch of units. Ended up at one point having about 30 units or so. And that's when I met, no, I wasn't even there yet. I was probably like 20 units. I met Josh Dorkin, founder of BiggerPockets. It was a tiny little blog at the time. It was a blog and a little forum. And I just
how'd you meet him?
I actually remember the day. I was actually 21 when I found BiggerPockets because it was that first house. I just bought that very first house. And I remember my dad, when I told him, I'm not going to go to law school, I'm going to be a real estate investor. And he goes, well, what are you going to do if tenants don't pay rent? And I was like, I don't know. I have no money. So I went to Google and I typed in what to do when tenants don't pay rent. And I found this website, BiggerPockets. I was so impressed with this article. It was like a short little 300-word article, and I don't remember everything it said in it, but it was basically the obvious stuff, like cash for keys, or, file eviction, you work with them, all this stuff. What it told me though was there were solutions to all these like naysayers that are like, well, what are you going to do about this? Like, here's all the reasons real estate doesn't work. And I was like, oh, here's an entire website dedicated to how do we make it work anyway? So I printed that page out. I still have it today. Like I printed the page out. And at the top, BiggerPockets and their old logo. So anyway, I found the site then. I became a member. I was a member like 7,000. Today there's 3 million or something like that. But I was like the 7,000th member. And again, it was just a little forum at the time. And through that, when I got into blogging, I discovered that you could actually write articles online and people would read them. I offered to volunteer write for BiggerPockets. I was like, hey, I've got 20 some units. Can I just write for you? And Josh was like, okay. So I just volunteered writing for them. And then that led to me becoming friends on Facebook with Josh. And then that led to one day he goes,
They had a podcast at that point?
No podcast. Okay. No. I was listening to a bunch of podcasts though. And I was like fascinated by the thing. And I remember actually when I went to Josh with the idea, I went to Josh and I was like, I think we should start a podcast. I've been listening to this thing. It's called a podcast.
So you were one of the initial people that even had the idea to start the
BiggerPockets but here's what's wild about that is I said to Josh, I remember the words, I said, we've already missed the boat with podcasting. It's on the decline.
What year was that?
This is like 2009 or something like that. I'm like maybe like 12.
Early.
It was like maybe 12. It was early, but I was like, we missed the boat. Podcasting was really big. It's probably a declining medium now, but I think we should do it anyway. Little did I know that we were on just the cusp of what was going to be a massive industry. And I would argue today, people say like, oh, like it's too late to start a podcast because it's, it's so saturated. We are still on the cusp of what it's going to be. Like the number of people who listen to still radio and Sirius XM and all that, because that's programmed into our cars. 95%, 98% of cars don't have podcasts built in yet. When they all have podcasts built in, the way Tesla does.
And they kind of are with Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, exactly. Apple CarPlay is made it more and more common. Podcasting is still, I think we're still in the infancy. And we're still figuring out what it is, right? When TV came out, like the first TV things were weird. You figure things out. But podcasting is destroying radio. It's just taking over the world, and for good reason. So I'm a big believer.
Me too.
Anyway, we're on the cusp. And so anytime somebody says that you missed the boat, like just know you probably didn't. It's probably fine.
Well, it was 2019 and people were telling me that I was buying at the peak of the market. In real estate, and then it just doubled.
It just went up. Yeah.
I'm like,
I remember I interviewed a dude back in probably 2017, and he was like, he gave this great metaphor. And I love the metaphor. He goes, think of you're at a party and everyone's doing musical chairs, right? There's 20 people in a circle dancing, but there's only 19 chairs. And so when the music shuts off, everybody grabs a chair and one person's left without a chair. They have to go sit down. He goes, you know what? I have learned that the real estate market's like this party and everyone's dancing and having a good time. And the market is going to turn very soon. And when it does, everyone's scrambling for a chair and a few people won't get one. I have learned to just sit down early. I'm okay just resting and not having to dance. I'd rather be the first one to sit down than the last one. And I thought, that's a wise statement in 2017. And now I look at that and I'm like, that guy missed out on like 300% increase between.
If they sat down in 2017 and didn't buy the last.
Exactly, didn't buy.
With 3% interest rates, the bull run.
Yeah, exactly. Missed out on all that. Now, that said, like, I bought some deals at like the very height of the market, probably 2023. Was probably the height of the market, 2021, 2022. And so I got some deals that I'm like, okay, yeah, we definitely paid a lot. And the market has softened a little bit. Like, for example, in Austin, Texas, we have an apartment complex there. Rents have gone down by like 12% in Austin. It's like, well, that sucks. Like, I don't like that. But then you zoom out and you realize like, 30 years from now, is rents in Austin going to be a lot more than they are today? 100% for sure. So do I really care about a softening in the market? Like there's never been a period of American history where 10 years went by that real estate wasn't worth more 10 years later than before. Any period in American history, real estate has always gone up over a 10-year period. And I think that we can generally assume it's always going to be that way when the government's printing trillions of dollars of money. It's
for sure.
We talked about this earlier, right? Like I'm not afraid of inflation. Yeah. I just want to be part of it. I just want to
be at the top.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. It's like, I don't care. Somebody once said to me, and it's kind of a funny statement. I don't care that there's a 1% in America. I just want to make sure I'm in it.
Yeah.
It's like,
so you said it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. I mean, like I care about people who are, because I've been low income. I remember I had so little money back when I was like 20, 21, getting started in life. I had nothing. And my wife, the storm came through and just like decimated my town. Like I live in Western Washington. It was just flooding. It was really bad. Now we were fine enough. Like I didn't lose my house or anything. That was that very first house. But they were offering $500 food stamps to anybody who needed money. And I was like, I don't have money for food right now. So I went and stood in line at the whatever department of something government for like hours. And I got myself a $500 gift card for food. And it was just like life-changing amount of money. So like, in other words, I know what it's like to be just flat broke and have nothing. And I just don't want to go back there. And I don't want anybody else to be there. So like, I'm going to be in the 1%. I am in the 1%. And I'm going to bring as many people as I can into that 1% as I possibly can until that 1% is the 5% or whatever. So.
And you're doing that.
I'm trying to do that, man. It's like, the great thing about real estate and about wealth in general is it's not a zero-sum game, right? Like anything, like me getting rich doesn't mean you're getting poor. Like there's just literally, the government has proven they can just always print more money. And so like, we can literally just all get rich together if we're just smart about it. And if you just have a mindset that builds wealth, which is something you could obtain by listening to podcasts like this one, by reading books. And so anybody who wants to be wealthy can be wealthy. Maybe not tomorrow, but over time.
Play the game.
Or you just got to get behind. Yeah, exactly. Play the game or get left behind.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just going to teach people to play the game as much as I can.
And you do at the highest level.
I try, man.
Like you seriously do. I don't think anyone probably in the world has helped more people get into real estate than Brandon Turner.
Well, thank you.
Like, and not just get into it, but get in it where they know what the freak they're doing and they're not just, buying random things.
Yeah. Real estate's so fun. I mean, I absolutely love real estate. Like, I mean, there's a million ways to make money. Like, there's a million ways to make money. I'm a big fan of business. I'm a big fan of lending. I'm a big fan of all this stuff. Like, it all works. But there's just something special about knowing that, like, that is an asset that, like, I can touch, I can feel, I can go there.
Generates money.
It generates money every single month. And even if I have a down month, like overall, it's going to be worth more in the future.
It's protected by insurance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's protected by insurance. There's always going to be a need. Yep. Oh, so many good things about real estate. And worst case, let's say you buy a piece of property and you break even on it and you get a mortgage on it. So after the mortgage, you pay the mortgage, you pay everything, you break even. Well, that sucks. Let's say prices never go up in value ever. It's still 30 years from now, it's worth exactly what it is today, which is impossible, but let's just say. And you get no cash flow. And let's just say there's no tax benefits for whatever reason. Okay, well, did you waste your time? No, because after 30 years, you paid your mortgage off to zero, which means now you're worth like whatever you bought it for now is just profit. In other words, every month you're making money, even if the property doesn't make money. So you combine that with the cash flow, with the fact that prices do go up, with the tax benefits, with the fact that you can do it with no money, and the fact that you don't have to be smart. Like, I'm not that smart of a guy. Like, I don't understand day trading or stocks or crypto. I don't understand how to run a business very well. Like, I have smart people I bring in to run them. But anybody can understand real estate. It's like, there's like 7 numbers. It's like, you get $1,000 in rent and you have $200 in repairs. And it's real basic, which is why it's perfect for, mediocrely smart people like me.
That's awesome. No, it is. And it's been a great asset for a lot of people. And it's really cool. I would be so curious to know how many people would say that Brandon Turner is the reason that they've been successful in real estate. Because like you've probably
a lot of people who have listened.
So many.
Yeah.
Millions.
I would argue though, I bet you millions more have listened and not taken action.
Oh yeah.
Right? So, I mean, probably tens of millions. I bet you 10 times more people have listened to an episode or read one of my books and then not done anything than do, which tells me that it's not me, it's them, right? Like, yes, I'm good at communicating a point in a book or on a podcast maybe, or maybe I just ramble long enough that something eventually comes out. But a certain percentage of people they're going to take action no matter what. I hope I can be like a piece of their like one of their stones on their path to get there. And if I can make it a little bit easier or get them there a little bit faster because of one thing that they hear or a guest that I bring on, yeah.
And if you're listening to this and that's you've wanted to get in real estate and you haven't yet, you haven't made the jump.
Yeah.
Brandon actually started his own, what is it called?
First Deal.
Yeah,
firstdeal.com.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, literally First Deal. I paid $13,000 for the domain name because I really like that domain.
It's a lot for a domain.
Firstdeal.com though, I love it.
It's so good.
Anyway, I just teach people how to buy their first deal. So I basically, like in this, even if you don't join the program, I'll just tell you everybody what the gist is. I want to simplify things because people overcomplicate everything in life, especially real estate. So to simplify it, all you really need is they're all four Ds. I'll say the 4 Ds. You make decisions. So like what type of real estate, what location, what condition, I call it your crystal clear criteria, but all I'm saying is you make decisions, get very clear on what it is you're going to do. It could be flipping houses, could be buying assisted living. It could be, whatever. There's a million things you could do. Just make a decision. And the great thing is it doesn't really matter. It's more important that you decide than what you decide, right? I love that quote. Way more important that you just make a decision. Everything will make you a millionaire if you do it right. So decide, number one. Number two is you got to have deal flow. In other words, how do you build a sales funnel that delivers deals to you consistently? And every sales guy listening to this will understand what I mean by that. If you go door to door and 1 out of 50 people you knock on a door ends up buying from you, and your average is $100, you can reverse engineer your success. The same thing is true in real estate. You say, well, how many doors do I got to knock? But instead of knocking doors, it's how many letters do I have to send? How many agents do I have to talk to?
How many deals do I need to analyze?
Exactly. How many deals I got to analyze? You just reverse engineer it. Now you have deal flow. The third D is dollars. You got to have the money to be able to finance it. It doesn't have to be your own. There's a million creative ways. Like you said, I wrote a book on creative finance called The Book on Investing in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down. The longest title in book
Such
history.
A good book, though. Shout out.
Thanks. It's all about like creative finance. I'm a big fan of that. Obviously, no matter how rich you are, eventually you're going to need creative finance. Donald Trump uses creative finance like as a billionaire. So if he can do it, you can do it. So we got decisions, make a decision, get lead flow, like deals coming through, start analyzing them, start making offers. Dollars, so figure out the money side of it, which is easier than you think. If you have no money right now, the easiest thing in the world is find somebody who has money. And there's a lot of people who have money and they don't have time. Yeah. Or house hack. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can put 5%
either partner or house
down,
hack.
3.5% down.
Yeah, such a great way to start. And then the last one is just, I call it the disciplines. So they're all disciplines, meaning what do you do when you don't want to do it? What do you do regardless of whether you want to or not? So a discipline in my life is to wake up every morning and read a chapter of the Bible. I do it every single day. In the margins, I write a note to my daughter, Rosie. It's a true story. Every day in the Bible, I read it and I write one note to my daughter, Rosie, every single day, every single chapter. And usually
like about the chapter?
Usually about the chapter. Okay. Now, sometimes you're in the middle of like Numbers or Leviticus and you're like, I don't know how to pull anything out of this. But I write a note to her every single chapter. And then it'll take me 3.5 years, something like that, I think, if I did the math right, to get through the whole Bible. I'll give that to her when she's like 18. And it'll be thousands of notes from dad based on scripture. Cool. Isn't that cool? I love this idea.
Did you just think of that
I think I made that up, but somebody might have told me.
No, I'm sure you made it up. You're a genius.
I'm a genius, man. Yeah, I don't actually remember but then again, I talked to a guy the other day.
That's really cool.
I was at a coffee shop and I saw this kid that I know, not kid, he's probably like late 20s, but I saw this guy I know and he's sitting there reading his Bible. And I walked over and I was like, I recognize him from church and some other places. And we're just chatting. I'm like, so what are you doing? He's like, oh, I read through the Bible every year and take a note on every chapter and give it to a friend. I'm like, that's what you do it every year. I do it I'm going to do it once every 3 years, but this kid, again, everyone's a kid to me when they're young, is doing it every year. Anyway, so disciplines are things that you do every single day. Let's go back there. Mm-hmm. Making offers is a thing that you should do, not every day necessarily, but like regularly, right? What are the regular actions? So making offers, analyzing deals, doing marketing. Sometimes it's just as simple as like what I call a power hour. This applies to any business. Like just a dedicated time you put in your calendar where you're going to work on that one, like deep work for an hour. And so if you can get even one of those power hours in every week, that's great. If you can get 2 of them in a week, even better. You can get 5 of them in a week, you're unstoppable. Like you don't need 40 hours a week to build a real estate business. You need like 2, 3, 4. So anyway, so the 4 Ds that we teach in First Deal is, make decisions, get clear on that. Number 2, get the deal flow. How to get your leads going. Number 3, dollars. And then lastly is do the disciplines, do the work. And then we add accountability on that. So we have somebody check up on you. Hey, did you do your stuff or not? And literally that's it. If you just did those 4 components, you would land deal after deal after deal after deal. And then it's scalable because you can't door to door 10,000 houses, but you can send 10,000 pieces of mail real easy. Now there's a cost to that, but it's completely scalable. And the way it's scalable in door to door, of course, is you build teams.
Right.
And then they go out and do the work, which is exactly what you do in real estate. I didn't get the 13,000 units alone. I built a team. Same thing. Business is all the same. We just put different facades on the front of it. It's like a different sign on the front door, but all business is the same. And the more I'm in business, the longer I'm in business, the more I realize that we're all doing the exact same thing. You could just take your knowledge and go apply it to any other field and just add a few tweaks that are specific to the industry. Like you're going to crush it.
Principles are the same.
Exactly. Success principles are the same everywhere.
Yeah. I agree. Really cool. And you have a guarantee with deal flow, right? What's your guarantee?
Yeah. So the whole thing, we guarantee that you'll get a deal in 12 months, your first deal, or either A, you can get your money back, which is fine. I don't think most people do that. I think most of the time we're just going to keep working with you. Like it's your choice. But if somebody doesn't buy a deal, my whole thing is this. I don't like the get rich quick gurus, like late night TV guys, slick back hair, going to charge you $30,000. Yeah. There's a lot of these guys that are just like,
Tony's not one of them. Just so you guys know.
Tony's great, but they'll take anybody's money.
Yeah.
Like there's this it's such a scam.
They're selling crap.
And they're selling crap. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, how do I do this? How do I sell something good, but also not take advantage of people? And I thought, well, you just put a guarantee on it. It's either it works for you or you get your money back. And I'm like, that's the best business to run. That's a good offer.
So it's an irresistible offer.
It's an irresistible offer. Yeah. It's like you either buy a deal or you get your money back.
Love it.
And I know that my guess is that 10% of people will probably ask for their money back. Okay. But by offering a guarantee, will I get 10% more people to buy the program?
Absolutely.
Of course I will. Yeah.
And you blacklist those people.
Yeah. You ask for a refund. And then even people who ask for a refund, like, yeah, most of them will probably would rather have a deal. It's not like people's desire for a deal goes away after a year. If after a year you're like, oh, I didn't get one. Okay, well, let's do it again. This time you don't have to pay. Just stay with me another year. Let's get you a deal. And if somebody ultimately just isn't going to get one year after year after year, then fine, get your money back. Like, what do I care? Like, I don't need your money.
Be in the bottom 10%.
Yeah. Just open the bottom 10%. It's like buying a real estate deal is not that hard. Building an empire a little bit harder, but buying a deal, like real estate's so forgiving. Like it's fine. Anybody can do it.
Just love that.
Yeah.
I love that you started Deal Flow too. Cause I bet there's a lot of people that sit on the sidelines and just have watched this bull run and, have been missing out, but it's like, take action, learn, take action. And I love that Deal Flow is that thing that could make them take action or at least push them to the edge.
Push them to take
push them to the very edge.
At the end of the day, like, and this
you got to jump.
This is true for you as a leader of people in your organization and anybody who's a leader. Is like, you are the coach, not the athlete.
Yeah.
Right. So like, all I can do is coach people to try to get them there. Like, they have to do they have to put in the hours. To
like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Exactly. Same thing. Yeah. So I try as much as I can to bring them to the water, but some people just will never do what it takes to sell, to run a business, to be a good father, to be a good...
Give up.
Yeah, people are just lazy and terrible.
Well, Jim Rohn says some will, some won't. So what?
Yeah.
Don't waste your time with the people that won't do it and move on.
Yep. That's exactly it. So,
but I feel like your like first deal is like the best thing that would make someone that was never going to jump maybe jump.
That's my hope. If you're on the edge, come on in.
Yeah.
We'd love to help you.
And I love what you said about daily discipline, because any goal in life should be broken down to daily small habits.
Yeah.
And like, I heard a quote from Les Pearson, shout out, but he said, like, every single decision you make once you set a goal is getting you one step closer to your goal or one step further away.
Yep.
And like, that's the same with any goal in life.
Yeah.
Buying your first deal to being a millionaire to having a six-pack. It's like daily freaking habits.
That's all it is. In fact, I'm so obsessed with this. I'll pull up my iPad right here. I know people can't see the iPad on a podcast, but I'll show you. It's like I have this like tracker I use literally every single day. I showed you guys at the event too.
Yeah, so sick. Like, your weekly
I just
habit tracker.
Yeah, weekly habit tracker. I just track everything. Like, it's like I write down my 3 goals. And then I write down up to 9, 10 habits or actions. And I just check off, did I do it today or did I not do it?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is you can gamify it. You can score it.
Totally.
Like, hey, I got an 87% this week. No, last week I got a 91%. I call it my accountability coach. A guy named Jason Atwood. He's awesome. He runs the Better Life accountability program. I call him up and I'm like, well, at first I text him a picture and I said, hey, big week, 91%. And he's like, rock on, man. That's awesome. I'm like, yeah, it is. And now I'm all like fired up because I got a 91%. That was the best I've gotten in a long time. And if my percentage is getting higher, it means that I'm doing more of the actions I want to do that contribute to the life that I want to live, which means my life is getting better as I've defined it. And I've literally just then reverse engineered my success from an identity or a person that I want to become 5, 10, 20 years in the future. And I've boiled it all the way back down into I've got to, go to the gym this morning. And that's it. And I go to the gym, I check a box. Great, I did it. And it's those disciplines that define us as people. It's the disciplines that turn us into the future self that we want to be, or it's the disciplines we do that are the negative ones, the scrolling TikToks, the consuming alcohol, drugs, porn, whatever, that turn us into the negative person that we don't want to be, right? The compound effect, Darren Hardy makes this point throughout that thing, is like you are becoming somebody, and you can be on a positive direction, compounding positively, or you can compound negatively and be a much different, worse person. You wonder, like, how do people become just absolute dirtbags in life? Like the husband who beats their kids and their wife and cheats and run, like they didn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be a dirtbag husband. Like that never happened, right? It's tiny little changes compounded over a 20, 30, 40-year period that turns people into their own like worst nightmare. And they don't even notice it, just a slow fade.
I agree 100%. Og Mandino in the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, Chapter 1, the first scroll is good habits are the key to all success. Bad habits are the unlocked door to failure.
Yeah.
Good habits are the key to all success in life. It's daily, consistent habits. And it's not just good habits for one day or a week or a year, decade, century. Like, okay, cool, you can read a book for 30 minutes one day, but can you do that for a week, a year? And what kind of person do you become by doing those daily things consistently? You know? Consistency, baby.
Consistency, man.
No, I love the compound effect. That's like top 3 for me.
Yeah,
it's
me
freaking
too.
good. If you haven't read it, go listen.
Compound effect, phenomenal. He'd be a good one to interview too, Darren Hardy.
Have you had him on?
I have not.
Bigger?
No.
Nothing?
I should. Yeah, I never had him
He
on
has
anything.
the daily Darren
Yeah,
Daily.
is he still doing that? Like,
yeah,
he's been doing that forever.
Someone just told me, Matt Strong, I just had him on my podcast. He listens to it every day. It's like a 10-minute podcast. It's really good, he said.
I listened probably the first like 3 years of him doing it, and I loved it. I just got eventually got out of the habit.
Daily discipline.
I know. That's what it is, man.
Get after it. No, I love that. And so many people are like, okay, well, I'll do these daily disciplines. And then they put their head up a month later and nothing's changed.
Yeah,
and then they
like,
quit.
Yeah. It's like, well, I analyzed a dozen deals. I didn't get a deal. I'm like,
I made a few offers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, great.
I knocked a few doors. Didn't get a sell. It doesn't work.
Yeah, we got
and then
quit.
they quit. Yeah. But it's like, if you, in Ogmandino's book too, he also says, failure will never overtake me if my determination to succeed is strong enough.
Yeah.
Such a powerful quote.
Yeah.
Like, if you want it bad enough, you will go through the daily disciplines consistently until you hit it.
Yeah.
And don't give up until.
Yeah, I love that quote that says if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And I live by that. Like, whenever,
so good.
Right? Yeah. I'm either gonna find a way or I'm gonna find an excuse. And if I find an excuse, it means I didn't want it bad enough. So
I knocked a few doors. I didn't, but it was Austin, Texas, too saturated, too many companies out there.
All these excuses. Yeah.
Love that. So you going back, you bring up, you go to Josh Dork and you're like, hey, we should do a podcast.
Yeah.
And you launched BiggerPockets podcast.
Yeah. I will say, by the way, Josh thinks it was his idea. I think it was my idea. I don't actually know it's true. I'm pretty sure it was my idea.
We'll find out in heaven.
Yeah, we'll find out in heaven someday.
Recording.
Like, we both have our own beliefs on whose idea it was for the podcast, but regardless, we started the podcast, and I had a goal. I wrote down within 5 years, I wanted to be a top 100 business podcast. And then week 1, we were like number 7.
Wow.
And so it never dropped. And that's because BiggerPockets had we had an email list of 100,000 people. And today,
already,
again, it's millions.
Before you started the podcast.
Yeah, when we started the podcast, we had 100,000 people on the email list, which we had built up over the previous year. The guy was helping write blog posts and sending the newsletter. And he had been working for 5 years before that, before I even came around, building the email list.
Big momentum.
Yeah, he had the momentum going. Now, it was still just him, and then he added me on. And a lot of people look at BiggerPockets, and like, there was definitely a hockey stick that happened after I came on. And so people have attributed that to me. What people don't realize is how stupid I was. It was you. No, I did not own a computer a year before BiggerPockets. I didn't even own a computer. I didn't know internet marketing. I didn't know business. I didn't know writing, didn't know podcasting. I literally knew nothing. So why did BiggerPockets hockey stick after I came on? And I would argue it wasn't Josh. It wasn't me. It was Josh and me. And what I mean by that is this is like classic Traction, Gino Wickman, or Rocket Fuel, even more importantly. Rocket Fuel is a book that says, hey, every great business almost entirely has 2 people at the head of it. Not necessarily like co-owners, but there's 2 people. There's a visionary and an integrator. Visionaries are people who see where we're headed and they can rally the troops and say, this is where we're going. And they're generally terrible at doing the work. And integrators, they have no vision for where we're going. There's like, I'm along for the ride, but I'm really good at doing the work. What Josh did is, it was by himself for 5 years, and then he brought in an integrator. And I was a doer to his vision. And boom, when you have that, you have Rocket Fuel. Now, years later, Josh ended up exiting the business. He ended up retiring, basically. And then...
does he still own it or no?
Nope. He's completely gone. Private equity now owns it. So he's out. And... But yeah, we brought in, I became the visionary, and we brought in an integrator. So I almost moved roles. Right now, I saw a lot of the vision. And then when I left the company, now there's new integrator and visionaries. And so it's an interesting dynamic where if you're in a business and you recognize you are the visionary, you're the integrator, you're unlikely to be both. And if you are, you're probably doing both a disservice and you're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah, you're better at one.
You're better at one, yeah. So be the visionary and be the spirit and the whatever of the company, and then get somebody else to do the tasks.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's what took it off. And it happened with Open Door Capital, same thing. Like I immediately from day one brought in an integrator. I was like, I'm not running this company. So like I brought in Ryan Murdoch, later brought in like I guess Walker Meadows, and now like every company I run, I'm the visionary and somebody else is the integrator.
Wow.
Yeah, I try not to be an integrator because I'm just bad at that.
But even before you started the podcast, you were reading hundreds of books. Like
yeah,
you were still obsessed about self-improvement and mostly real estate at that point, right?
Yeah, I actually wish I would have read more self-improvement and business books than
I've heard you
real
talk
estate.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah, I read a ton of real estate books.
Completely aligned.
Yes. I just didn't realize, like, what's the quote? Jim Rohn is like, oh, you and I are both quote people. But
I love Jim Rohn.
Yeah, Jim Rohn has like, you'll never, rise higher than the level of your self-development. Like your
your income will never exceed your commitment to personal development.
Something like that. Yeah. And so like I was capped in my real estate because I capped myself at my personal development. And so like my leadership skills, my understanding of sales and marketing and outsourcing and all of those things that are tactical and also mindset-y around, mindset-y a word? It is today. Mindset-y. These needed like, I needed a new version, an upgrade, so to speak, right? So we talk about Tony Robbins and upgrading our operating system. I needed a new operating system and I just refused. I was living at the level 1 operating system and therefore I could only scale to that level. And it wasn't until I got the next level, which is really like we're, learning leadership skills and again, mindset and like reading Brian Tracy's Psychology of Selling. And he talks about the thermostat. Like I remember like I was making like $100,000 a year. And he made that statement in there about like the thermostat is like, well, he made 2 statements. One is like everyone has a thermostat. If you get above that, you start slacking off and
cooling down.
You're cooling down and you're not working as hard. And that's why people make the same amount. Even entrepreneurs make the same amount every single year. Yeah. Why is that? It's because we have a thermostat. So mine was stuck at like a little under 100K. And he says, fascinatingly, by the way, your thermostat's set by the amount of money your father makes, that blew my mind.
Like originally. Yeah.
Growing up, my dad made $42,000 a year or $50,000 a year. And like, that's where my thermostat was. And so when I was a little bit above that, I would slow down. So then it's like, how do you elevate your thermostat? Is you get around a bunch of other people who have a higher thermostat, right? Proximity is power, right? So I make friends I joined a mastermind, well, whatever you want to call it. It's like 4 guys. We got together every week and started chatting. And one of these guys mentioned one time, he's like, yeah, I made $550,000 this year. And I was like, you did what? And he's like, yeah, $550,000. I was like, that's stupid. I made like 50. And I'm like, how did you make like, and I got to know this guy. And a year later, I made $552,000.
Wow.
And I looked back on that shocked, realizing almost to the dollar. I mean, within a few $1,000s that I made what he had told me that he was making. Isn't that wild?
And it was like the craziest thing ever when you heard it the first time.
Exactly. It was completely nuts that a human being in their 20s or late 20s could make that much money. And then a year later, I did it.
It's so cool.
Later on, I heard David Osborne, who's the founder of GoBundance. He gave a speech and he said he's raising $100 million to buy real estate. And I was like, that is absurd. Like how could a human raise $100 million? Like that's absolutely absurd. Nobody can ever do that. And the next year I raised $100 million. And so it's like you get in the room with people who do that kind of stuff and your thermostat raises. And so that's been a continual story. And I haven't thought about this in a few years, but just the last couple of days I've been thinking, I'm like, I have been stuck at the same income level now for the last couple of years. Like it's a great income, but I'm definitely not Grant Cardone.
How much, Brandon?
I would say a little over $1 million a year. Okay. Right? So I'm probably like a little over $1 million a year of cash flow.
So much.
Your
net worth is insane.
Net worth is doing pretty good.
What's your net worth these days, Brandon?
It's under 100 million. So it's not a billion.
That's still insane.
Yeah, it's a little under 100 million.
You're going to be a multi-billionaire though.
If I keep up with it, there's a good chance I'll just give up and not give up. That's the wrong word. I will settle down at some point soon. I think that's.
I don't think you have that in you.
I don't know.
You're
either.
obsessed.
Yeah.
You get around Tony too.
I know. You get around guys like,
yeah.
The only difference would be if I just give it all away, which would be a more fun way to spend the money.
Yeah, for sure.
In which case,
the quote, like the first half of your life, you make all your money, and then the second half, you give it all.
Yeah, exactly. And so I like the idea of doing that. But like I've been stuck at around, call it a little over $1 million a year for the last few years. And it's always pretty consistent. And I thought, it's because I'm in a room with a lot of people that make $1 million a year. All my friends, most of them make around $1 million a year. In fact, Cam Cathcart talks about all the time. Is like his first year flipping, he made $1 million and he's always right around that. So I'm like, dang, how do I get in a room with people making $50 million a year? Like, how do I make that the new norm? Or do I even want to? Like, that requires a whole new level of.
Well, I think you should. I think the purpose of life is growing.
I do too.
Is to become the best.
But it may not be financially, but it may be financially.
I think every area.
Yeah, I agree.
Like become all you can be.
Yeah.
Be the best business owner you can be.
Yeah.
Make as much money as you can be. Because why? The best answer to why is why not? Why not see how many? Because the more money you make, the more people you're going to help. That's because the more you get paid in proportion to the value you bring in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be helping a lot of people. If you stop growing, you're fine. But that's a lot of people you could have helped.
Yeah, I agree.
I challenge you.
I like the challenge.
Keep growing.
How do you view, I'm going to turn the interview around on you. How do you view wealth? Because this is a question I get asked all the time.
Yeah.
Wealth and faith. Like the Bible does warn a decent amount about the dangers of wealth. It doesn't say not to be wealthy, and there's a lot of instruction on how to, but it does warn about wealth.
It does.
And then we are sitting there obsessed about building wealth, which is, to put it lightly, like we love the idea of building wealth.
I love this
How do
question.
we reconcile it?
I think it's the intent.
Okay.
I think if you just want to get wealthy to go show off to all your friends, I don't think that's like God-given desire. I think if you want to get wealthy to go give and impact as many people as you can and like bring a lot, like you said, like as many people in the top 1% as you can with you, I think there's nothing better.
I agree.
That's my tidbit on that.
Yeah, there's a verse somewhere. I don't remember where it's at, but I want to tattoo it on my body at some point. I probably will.
Like actually?
Yeah, I actually literally want to tattoo it. And basically the story is, I think it's Jesus telling this story where he says like, this rich man goes to such and such city and engages in a prophet. And then and Jesus says basically like, you fool, you should have said, if the Lord wills, I'm going to go to such and such city and make a profit, right? And so the idea being, it's just that phrase, if the Lord wills. And so that's the phrase. I actually have it in Greek, like the original phrase, I want to tattoo it somewhere. If the Lord wills. And it's that reminder that Jesus is like, it's fine to say and to plan and to build an empire. It's totally fine to go want to make a profit, as long as you have that heart that says, if the Lord wills. Because he may not. I believe like maybe it's like, hey, I know I wanted you to build wealth. Originally you built wealth. You did what I wanted. Now I want you to go move to Africa and go be a missionary. And be like, oh no, like
totally.
I please. This sounds horrible. Or like one of my prayers is like, please don't make me a missionary. I don't want to. I want my Tesla. I really like my Raptor.
Yeah. You love living in Maui.
Exactly. I want to live here.
Yeah.
But I'm open. I'm open to God changing my heart and direction, and I think that's the key.
I love that.
Yeah.
Dude, you're a good dude.
Thanks.
That's what I love about you, and that's what I knew, like, just watching you, and that's why, like, there's a lot of people that you could go learn from, but I love Brandon because he's good in a lot of different areas of his life. Like, outside looking in, and now a little bit more internal. Like, we're going to your house tonight. I'm freaking stoked.
Yeah, you'll see my family later.
Dude, you're focused on building wealth. You're focused on helping people. You're focused on your fitness. You're focused on your family, being a present father, present husband, and you're bringing a lot of people with you. Like you're a beast, dude.
I'm trying,
and man. I hope we can be friends forever.
Forever.
We're
going to Tony Robbins together.
We
now,
are.
So
dude, there's nothing better that'll build our.
I know that's like going to war. You get a brother in arms there.
You get in there and you're like, this is a freaking concert. This is a cult party with lasers everywhere.
Exactly,
No, it's gonna be a wild time. But no, dude, you're a stud, and I think I don't think you should ever stop doing what you're doing, because I know how much you've helped me and so many of my friends and other people in life.
Well, thanks, man.
And you're just like inspiring. Like you're not only just helping people, but you're raising the bar of everyone else around you. So super cool.
And have a long beard, which
and
gives
you have
me
a sick
extra
beard.
Points. Yeah,
beardy Brandon.
You gonna grow one eventually?
Dude, I can't.
Come on.
I literally,
have
my wife
Rogaine?
Really, I probably should put on my face.
Yeah, that's what Ryan Pineda did.
Really?
Yeah.
My friend actually in high school told me he was doing that. I'm like, dude, you're a freaking con artist.
That's literally what Ryan Pineda did. He bought the minoxidil or whatever it's called, and he just put it on his face
and it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Dude, I might have to do that.
Because
my dad can't grow a beard. I don't know if I could. But I feel like people would take me more seriously if I did.
You definitely would.
Probably.
You look older. Yeah. I look like I'm a 13-year-old girl when I shave this.
Really?
It's really bad. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. But dude, I love this so far, and I know everybody's gotten a lot of value. I guess, what are you currently working on, and what's next for Brandon Turner?
Yeah, I'm working on simplifying my life, but not losing my income in the process. And so I just brought in a CEO to run all my education stuff. I want to get back to writing again. I really like writing.
More real estate books?
Yeah. Probably more personal development and business in the future. I don't know if I'll ever write another. I mean, I probably will write another real estate book, but it's like I've got enough that like you people shouldn't need much more.
Yeah. Like you got the best.
Yeah.
Like there's
You can
nothing else
figure it
to
out,
tell
yeah.
you right here.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do like a specific like,
Cool.
like whatever, like mobile home park book. Like that'd be cool. Like it's never going to sell that big, but like it'd be nice to teach people how to do mobile home parks.
I can make the best mobile home park book out there.
Yeah, exactly. How do you make the best? Which probably wouldn't be hard because I don't think there's even a single one yet.
Yeah.
So like I could probably write the best one of all time because it's the only one of all time.
I know you could. Yeah.
It'll be the only one of all time. Yeah, man, I got a mortgage company I'm trying to build. I think that there's a lot of legs on that. A loan company. 3 different education companies between First Deal, Better Life, and the 50. Better Life, of course, 100% of profits go to the fight against human trafficking. So that's a near and dear to my heart. That one's the hardest business I run by far. And I don't think that's coincidence that it's the one that I've dedicated my life to, like fighting human trafficking is the hardest one to run. And what I mean by that is like, if you want opposition in a spiritual sense, that translates into a physical sense, just do something that's really morally good and fights the evil in the world, and you're going to get opposition. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad it's hard because like, when things are hard, that means like you're doing something right. I feel like
totally.
So that's been just a challenge to run. I've learned a lot of lessons. I'm not saying it's like the devil's attacking me on it. It's just a lot. Most of it's just me being a bad leader. Yeah, it might be. But I think a lot of it's just me being stupid and not knowing how to run a business of that size. I mean, we launched with 700 members paying $300 a month. It was a large business launch. And all of a sudden, within a year, we were like running out of money. And I was like, oh, what do we do? I need to learn how to manage a big company.
Wow.
Like, I had to elevate, again, new mindset, new frameworks, new like management, everything. Like my operating system. I needed to upgrade my operating system. And that is usually a painful thing.
Totally.
To upgrade your operating system. And I had to do that over the last year. And I've gotten better at it. And so now First Deal is like, I'm taking the new operating system and that one's going way better because I'm now running it differently. Yeah.
Dude, I'm so excited to see you post Date with Destiny because that's what it's all about. Like upgrading your psychology. What's currently the biggest chokehold in your business or life, would you say?
That's a great question. I mean, the market is not friendly to real estate right now. Like the broad market, it's really hard. It's really challenging. When cap rates, which this gets in the weeds, but like basically the value of multifamily dropped by like 20 to 30% over the last 2 years. Now, again, I don't worry about it long term. Everyone's gonna be fine. We're all happy with it. We have ups and downs, but in the short term, it sucks, right? So like, that's definitely a bottleneck because it would be really nice if interest rates drop back down again or cap rates drop back down again.
What about life?
In life, it's a good question.
Nothing.
No,
Unstoppable.
There's so
Beardy
much.
Brandon.
Yeah, it's like
power of the beard.
There's so much hard to pick one. Trying to balance ambition and contentness. Contentness is a really challenge for me. Like, how can I just be happy at home with the kids playing on the floor with Legos and not be thinking about work, right? And how can I be at work and not feel guilty that I'm not hanging out with my kids? How can I keep both in their right, correct, and fully lived and experienced and not have them mix together too much? That's kind of what you talked about on my podcast.
Yeah, that's an art.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm not good at it either.
Yeah, it's tough.
But I love what you said. Like you spoke at an investor con, and one thing you talked about, like one of the habits you were tracking at least then was like being off your phone after 6 p.m.
Yep.
Like I love that. Like you make it an actionable thing of like, hey, I want to be more present and I want to not have my mind on work. So what could I do on a daily basis to like actually do that? And that was awesome. Like, I think that's cool that you're intentional about that.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a good takeaway from this podcast too, is because you and I both follow this principle, is like if there's something you want in life, usually it's a feeling you want or it's some kind of identity you want. So I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better business person. Majority of the world, 90% of the world, I bet, stop there. So if you ask them their goals, what do most people say? I want to be I want to lose weight. I want to be a better dad. I want to be more in shape. I want to whatever. They want.
Have to be.
Yeah. So how do you boil that down and just be way more tactical about it? Mm-hmm. Now, is being off my phone at 6 p.m., is that going to instantly make me a better father? No. but it's going to contribute to it.
It's going to help.
It's going to help.
It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt. Yeah, it's going to, in the next quarter or next week, whenever I need to, I can change it and I can be like, okay, actually that is helping. But you know what would be more important is if I do this. And then it's like, I'm going to do both those things now, or I'm going to shift. I can change. You can't correct course if you're not flying, right? Like it's like a plane sitting on a tarmac can't change course. The plane can only change course when it's up in the air flying. And so if you just got to get going. So pick something. I'm going to go off my phone at 6 o'clock and then do it for 3 months and then reevaluate. And this goes all full circle back to having accountability, like having some kind of like person in your life you can talk with, whether it's a buddy, a coach, a partner, because somebody needs to like challenge me on those things and be like, okay, you've been off your phone for 3 months now. Are you a better father? No, I'm really not. Okay, well, let's pick a new one. Like,
yeah,
what
maybe
it's
practice meditation.
Exactly,
So then you can like actually be present.
Be present,
Your mind's not wandering.
That's exactly actually what I'm thinking. I just wrote that down the other day. I said, I think next quarter here, because I try not to change my habits more than once a quarter if I can avoid it, unless there's something that's just not working. But I think I'm going to make meditation a habit because I think that would help. If my brain was not so trained on TikTok and it was more trained on meditation.
Oh, because for sure society and like Instagram is making
it's
people's
making our
attention spans so
and I can
short.
feel it.
I can feel it too.
Yeah.
My wife's like, hey, I was just talking and you're gone. Like, where'd
exactly.
you go?
I'm like,
I'm sorry.
You
like,
were more than 4 seconds.
I scrolled in my mind.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, sorry, honey. Next.
I swiped on you.
Yeah, swipe up.
It's bad though.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's cool.
That's going to be a phrase like I swiped up on our conversation.
I swiped up.
Yeah, I just like swiped up.
Not in the DMs, but just swipe to the next scroll.
Yep.
I love that.
Next topic.
No, that's really
Your
cool.
wife's like, I had a really hard day at work today. Next. The kids were really next. You look really good today, honey. Thanks. I'm going to keep on that one for a minute. Yeah.
No, I love that. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that proximity is power? And if so, how important has it been for you? You've already mentioned this a little bit, but.
Yeah. 100% proximity is potential power. No, proximity is power because it's power for good or bad.
Yeah, good or bad.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's positively power. Proximity is power. This is why, like, I always say, like, when you go to a real estate conference, like, always upgrade to the VIP package. It's a few $1,000s a year you'll spend extra on, like, that. Like,
pay to play, baby.
Yeah, you pay to play. And me and actually my friends always joke about this. We say, we all just pay to hang out with each other. And it's, like, silly, but it's like, that's literally what we do is we pay a lot of money to be friends with each other. We buy our friends at this level. And it's kind of a,
because life is busy and like you guys are all there.
Yeah. It's a cynical way of saying it, but we buy our way into rooms so we can hang out with each other. And I typically want to hang out with people who are willing to buy their way into a room to hang out with me. And not just me, but each other, right? Like otherwise you just get, it's too hard to segment people. There's too many people.
It weeds people out. Yeah,
so
like you got to pay.
Yeah, you pay. And so
people that pay the most attention.
It's so true. Yeah, actually, I'm part of a group called GoBundance. I hope they don't hear this. I love GoBundance. I love them. I've been a part of them for years. I met David Green through GoBundance.
Oh yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
Right?
Yeah.
As soon as they gave me a free membership, I stopped going. Like, they gave me a free membership instead of paying 10 grand a year or whatever. I haven't been doing events since. Now that's not on purpose. Like, I'm not like tactically thinking I did not pay, therefore I won't go. But I'm not paying, so it doesn't hurt me not to go. I don't feel that regret. So I wish they wouldn't have. Yeah, I almost wish they wouldn't have stopped. Wouldn't give me the free membership because I'd probably get a lot more out of it.
I love that. Yeah, because I asked my friend Jimmy Rack, shout out.
I know that dude.
Yeah, he's a good, like, freaking phenomenal networker.
Yeah,
like has so many crazy people on his podcast, Mitt Romney, like all these things. And I asked him, like, what's his biggest secret in networking? And he said, at the beginning at least, you have to pay to be in the room.
Yeah.
And pay at the highest level. So you're around the highest level people that are the most obsessed with growing. Because that's how you're going to get the proximity with the highest people.
So this goes back to where I said, like, when I was younger, I kept in that limited mindset. And it capped me on how fast I could grow, how big I could grow. And a lot of that was actually, this sounds bad. It was like, but it was BiggerPockets. Again, I love BiggerPockets. I love what they've done. I love being a part of it. But BiggerPockets has a mentality and a spirit around do not pay for education. Do not pay for anything.
Like, it should be free.
Everything should be free.
Because all their news things, emails were free. Yeah.
Yep. BiggerPockets always had it. Even the first time when I came on board there, Josh was only charging $9 for a pro membership, and it basically gave you ad free. And he was like, "Well, I'll charge you not." But like, there was this feeling of like, we don't want to charge money because it was a response to, and correctly, it was a response to all the gurus charging $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 to grandma, taking advantage of her, making her second mortgage or house just to pay for it.
Slick hair,
exactly.
Late night infomercials.
So BiggerPockets was a reaction to that. I think that actually it was valuable to have. Like, you see both sides, kind of like Democrat, Republican, like the far right and the far left, they're both crazy. You have to balance yourself. And the same is true with the paying for stuff. So BiggerPockets, I went far too far until I don't pay for anything. And it wasn't until
worth it.
Yeah. And because what are they going to teach me? I didn't realize that you're paying for the room. You're not paying for the knowledge.
Yeah, the networking.
Yeah, the networking. And so I didn't go to any event. I never went to events. I didn't join any groups. I didn't pay for any coaching. I did nothing. And I stayed there because all I got was what was free. And what was free is the people in my neighborhood. And the people in my neighborhood were at the same level too, because they weren't going to those things. So yeah, there's a balance between not just spending $100,000 on a coaching program because some slick guy told you to do it, because you do need to get in that room. But not all those rooms you need to be in. You got to be careful. So anyway, there's a balance there. And I went far too far one way. And now I've maybe moved back to a little more center. Like, I'm still not in platinum yet. But
we're going to get you there.
Yeah. But now I have the money where, like, actually, like, I could join platinum. This is going to sound so arrogant. I'll say it. I could join it and I wouldn't even notice
it. I
it.
could buy platinum.
I could join platinum today and I would not even notice it missing from my checking account.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
It wouldn't even occur to me.
You're going to join.
It doesn't hurt.
Brandon, we're going to join together.
Yeah. But like, it wouldn't hurt, and therefore I don't know if I'd pay attention. I almost want to join the 250 group that he has, because that would hurt. I would be like, oh.
The Lion's Den,
Yeah, the Lion's Den. I'd be like, okay, that took a lot of money out of, like, now that's skin in the game. And not the $80,000 or whatever, 60, whatever the number is not that a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but I just wouldn't notice it because I have so much money going in and out in all my businesses every single month.
I agree.
Yeah. So
people that pay the most attention.
I would pay more attention if I paid $250,000.
Absolutely.
Maybe Tony will just take $250 for platinum just for the heck of it.
Just say, hey, I really want to make this a priority. Would you take this extra money? He totally
refused to join the
There's
Lions.
No way he doesn't accept that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then upgrade you to Lions.
Yeah. In fact, you'd probably be like, he'd probably actually admire that and be like,
just give you one-on-one coaching. Just exactly. Upgrade you to the top.
Let me just get you the top.
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And I also think what's interesting, this is kind of like a side tangent, but like Alex Hormozy says this. I think it's one of the most brilliant business lessons I've ever learned. He says product in business trumps marketing, and marketing trumps sales. If your product is elite, it will sell itself.
Yep.
And so what's so cool about Tony Robbins events, he doesn't really market them at all. It's not like he has door-to-door people going out and selling them. But the product's so damn good, it sells itself.
Yeah, every member.
You get mother freakers like me out there just screaming at people to come. And it's just so cool because, like, the experience, like, he also says, like, Tony Robbins says the secret in business is over-deliver.
Yeah.
Do more for the customer than they thought. Make the product better than anyone thought. And so he does that at his events. Like, you think it's going to be good, it's better.
Yeah.
And so that's why I, like, preach it to people, because it's better. That was kind of a side tangent, but when I first met you, like a month ago, one of the first things I asked, I'm like, how did Brandon become Brandon? And what you told me was the books. Like, you've been on this freaking obsession with learning since 21 years old. How old are you now?
We don't want to talk about that. Okay. Not 40.
40?
Almost 40. I'm
you
39 and a half.
Okay, heck yeah.
30. I look great for 39.
You look great. You look great. And if you shaved your beard, you'd look
13.
20. Yeah.
13-year-old girl.
Yeah. But so I think what's interesting, what I'm trying to like point out to you guys is the books have changed you. And I also feel like you were stagnant for a while, but also like I'm sure BiggerPockets interviewing Patrick Bet-David, Grant Cardone, because that was the first time you realized what Grant was doing with the fund model.
Yeah.
Because that totally changed. Our podcast probably
completely
triggered
it was
Open Door Capital.
Correct.
And now you have $1 billion, like $1 billion in assets from one interaction with somebody.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Like Ed Milet always says, you're one person, one idea, one conversation, one book, one seminar away from changing your whole life. And it's true. Like one seminar at InvestorCon got me here.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Have I told you my Ed Milet story?
No.
I got a good story about Ed Milet.
Let's hear it.
I love Ed Milet. Okay. I'm a big follower, big fan. I love him. I've never met him, but we have some
I've met him.
Have you? Oh, dang.
My dad works in the same finance business. So I got a trip. But sorry, go back.
That's right. So Ed Milet, All right. So I would love to meet him someday. So I had this vision in my head that, to go back, the Better Life Tribe is this tribe I started of existing real estate investors trying to scale. And 100% of the profits go to charity. I don't even take a salary. There's no tax benefit for me. It's just like, it really is a legit good organization that we're trying to do good. I had this vision that 2 guys were meant to be on stage at our conference back last December, so end of 2023. I said, Tim Tebow, Ed Milet. I don't know where that came from. I just wanted those 2 gentlemen to be there. Tim, I had a reason to get him there because we were going to give him like $500,000. We gave him like $550,000
for his charity.
For his charity, yeah. Cool. All the profits from the previous year we gave to Tim Tebow. We still give to Tim Tebow, and he's like kind of our primary charity we give to.
What kind of charity is it?
He runs an anti-human trafficking thing. Cool. He does other stuff like besides that. He does, but a lot of it's anti-human trafficking, and I love his heart. And so Tim Tebow was an easy one to get. That was an obvious one. Ed Milet, I'm like, I don't know Ed. I've never talked to Ed. Ed doesn't know me. I have no way of getting Ed here. I mean, maybe I could bug a friend that's like a mutual friend, but we're not that close of friends. Not enough that I'd ask him to make an intro. Ultimately, I was scared to ask Ed Milet to come because, I mean, Ed has a private jet. It's expensive. We have no money for speakers at the thing because it's all charity. So he's not going to get on his private jet, fly from Florida where he's living all the way to Vegas. He's not going to do that. I talked myself out of it, right? Ed's never going to come to Vegas for this conference that I'm at. So I never asked him. Even though Tim and Ed are friends, like Tim could ask him. I could ask Tim to ask him. I'm too afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of confrontation, afraid of all that. I love the story. That night, Vegas now comes up. Tim Tebow speaks, phenomenal. People crying. It was great. We raised a bunch of money, gave him a bunch of money. That night, we go off and he leaves, whatever. And it's kind of like the final night of the event. And my head of social media marketing, whatever, his name's Stetson. He texts me. He goes, "You never guess who I just met in the lobby." I said, "Who?" Ed Milet. Ed was in Vegas at my hotel the same day that he was meant to be on stage. And I almost tear up realizing God put Ed Milet in my hotel the same day I needed him to speak on stage. And I was too afraid to ask Ed Milet because I was too afraid of rejection.
And it was after the seminar?
It was the same day as the seminar. He was literally there.
He was literally there.
It wouldn't have cost him any money to come and hang out with Tim Tebow on stage for a few minutes and talk to everybody and give him a message that he wouldn't have had to prepare for. He was in the freaking hotel the same day. God delivered Ed Milet up on a platter and said, "Here you go, Brandon. I gave you the vision to have Ed. Just be faithful and just call him. Just ask one of your friends that's friends with him to have Ed." And I didn't do it. And I kick myself to this day. Now, again, God's gracious, and
so you didn't
I'll get
have
another
Ed.
shot. I didn't get Ed. Yeah, no, because the event was over.
But you will never make that mistake again.
I hope I never make that mistake again of being too afraid to ask somebody that I think is too high and mighty or that is too hard to get. Because especially when it comes to the Better Life Tribe, that's it's not my business. I really believe that's God's business.
That's awesome.
That he gave me. And so there's a lot of stories of God's stuff in that business, which has just been a phenomenal thing to run. But yeah. How wild is God? It's such a good reminder that again, it's not my business, it's God's. And so if he wanted Ed Milet there, Ed could have been there. So whatever. But God's gracious. So we'll get
out of your head, Brandon.
I know, that's what it is. I had to get out of my head. And it just shows that and it's also a good reminder, nobody's too good and too famous and too popular to reach out to. You know what I mean?
We're all just people.
We're all just people. And Ed's probably just if he hears a story, maybe we'll put this on social media, maybe he'll hear it someday.
Now people doing
abnormal things. Abnormal things. That's our band name.
Yeah.
I hope Ed would see this and would laugh, be like, "Dude, he should have just called me." Now I have Ed's phone number. So a friend did introduce. After that, I was like, "All right, will you introduce me to Ed Milet, please?" And so he did. And now I have it. Now we've chatted about. So we'll do something together. Ed's destined to help me out at some point, and not help me out. It's not
Ed's
for me.
a stud.
Ed's a stud. So anyway, Ed Milet, I'm coming for you, man. We're gonna get you to speak.
Dude, Ed's a big Tony guy too.
Yeah,
he pays him $1 million to private coach him.
Yeah,
that's what Tony made Ed start his podcast, the Ed Milet Show. That literally came from Tony Robbins and God. I think. Anyway, no, that's really cool. I think it's funny because one quote that I've really been thinking about a lot is "Fortune favors the bold."
Yeah,
and I told my wife because I saw you coming. Well, first of all, this summer, Brody got on your Better Life podcast. Mm-hmm. And I knew Brody from summer sales industry. He was at Vivint. We had gone to a Tony Robbins event together. Didn't know him super well, but like followed along, saw that he was crushing it with Real Estate Investor School. And I remember listening to that podcast you and Brody did, freaking out, messaging Brody, how the hell did you get on Brandon Turner's podcast? I was freaking out. And he just was laughing at me. But then Brody puts on this event. And who's on the freaking names of speakers? Freaking Brandon Turner, David Green, Chandler Smith, like all these ballers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to go and I have to meet Brandon. Like,
that's funny.
That was my goal. And it was crazy that I met you. And then I had like, the balls to ask you to like, I literally asked you for your number. I asked. You probably thought this kid's an idiot. Like, I'm not giving this kid his number.
I gave you a fake number. It's great.
Yeah, you but like, I've been texting your assistant this whole time. You do have my number.
My assistant. She's a big fan of you. Yeah, she's the best. No, that's the one thing. My assistant doesn't have my cell phone. Like I control my own text.
That's awesome.
Everyone else runs the rest of my life, but I have one thing of my own.
But I just remember, so I asked you to be on the podcast and I asked for your number and you were totally so gracious and kind about it, which like, I thought I knew who you were and it just like confirmed everything. In fact,
thanks.
It made it even, like, you're even cooler in person than you.
Oh, wait till you meet my home life and my family that man.
Crazy.
You're going to be like, oh yeah, this guy is a douchebag.
But what I'm saying is like that night I went home and told my wife, like, I met you and we talked at dinner and I'm like, I could die a happy man today. I literally said that. I literally did.
Thanks.
But then I told my wife, she's like, I can't believe you asked him to be on your podcast. I can't believe you asked him.
Fortune favors the bold.
Fortune favors the freaking bold. And I just think like, okay, like it's already a no if I don't ask. Why not ask? And then I have the possibility of a freaking yes.
Yeah.
And I would have never asked if I hadn't done 8 summers of getting my ass rejected over and over. I'm like, no doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
And fortune favors the bold. So make the ask.
There you go. Make the ask.
But I don't want to take all day. We've pretty much already taken all day for Brandon. But
sorry, how are we doing on time? We're doing great, man.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you agree that the best investment someone can make is in themselves? And what's been the best investment you've ever made in yourself?
The best investment you can make is in your spouse.
No, is in yourself.
In your spouse. I'm telling you, I don't agree. You're probably right.
Yeah.
But if I could invest in myself or I could invest in my spouse, I'd probably invest in my spouse because that actually invests in myself. So no, I do believe in, investing in yourself. If we're talking like education I agree with that 100%. I think that marketers will use that line to manipulate people into like, run to the back of the room right now and sign up for this $40,000 thing. Well, I'll teach you how to flip houses that you can read in a book.
They've never
flipped a house before. Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, because invest in yourself. So I think it's easy to take that and run with it in the wrong direction. But yeah, like investing in your education, your knowledge, reading a book, attending a seminar, those things on average always pay back tenfold. And when I say on average, I mean, like you go to 9 conferences and get nothing out of it. And the 10th one, you meet a partner and you do $1 million of work. Did you make $1 million on the 10th conference? Technically. But what actually happened is you made $100,000 on the other 9, right? So you made, on average, you made $1 million over 10 events, even though 9 of them didn't come true. The same thing is true with door-to-door sales, right? You knock on 50 doors, you sell a $1,000 product, you make $1,000 on one door. Did you make $1,000 on one door, or did you make whatever 1,000 divided by 50 is? $20. Am I doing that right? Did you make $20 per door? I feel like that's way wrong. Is that right? Yeah. 50 times 20 is 1,000. Yeah, we're gonna go with that.
I think so.
I don't know. I don't do math. So like you actually, right. It's like you made $20 per door. And so when you have that perspective of like every door I go to, whether it's a yes or no, it's still $20. I'm just gonna keep knocking doors. Every offer I make on real estate, every book I read, every conference I go to, every coffee I take somebody out to, or lunch I go out to with somebody, every one of them on average is making me 10x the return. You just don't always know which ones are going to do it. Steve Jobs has a quote that says like, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, not forwards. You just keep making dots. You just keep doing it. And then when you look back, you're like, oh yeah, now I can see the path that got me there. But if you're trying to predict the future going, well, I don't know, should I go to that conference? Should I invest in that program? Should I do this? Like you can't predict what like what steps are between you and that future you. So you just have to take as many as you can and assume that you're going to get there.
Yeah, and it only takes one idea, one person to change everything for you.
Yeah, when you have that optimism or that mindset of like even the smallest, like one tip, one advice can alter the trajectory of your life forever.
Right. Like even you talking at InvestorCon about accountability. I don't have like a lot of accountability in my life, and I've never really made that a priority. But like me just implementing that, I have a way better chance of hitting my goals. Like you said, 95%. If you have accountability.
Yeah, if you could increase the chance of your goals by 10%, would you do it? Of course, everyone would.
Yeah.
Like, so why don't we just find little things that, huge.
And I think for me, like, I agree that the best investment is in yourself, but be very, very careful who you're learning from.
100%.
And like, I always try to put myself in rooms with people that have done things I want to go do, because proximity is power. You will get ideas of who they are that got them that result, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, another way of looking at the proximity is power thing is you realize like that it's like, this is probably a terrible metaphor, but I think of like a light bulb that leaches power from other light bulbs. So you walk into a room, and if there's a really bright light bulb in there, you're going to pull power from that light into your light, and your light's going to shine brighter. And not that theirs goes away, but like you're pulling power from other sources all the time. And it happens without you noticing it. And so the reason I bring that up is like, it's easy to look at a guy, and I'm going to throw him under the bus a little bit. I don't mean to, because I do love him. But Alex Hormozi. You look at Alex Hormozi and you say, I love that guy. He's brilliant with business. I love the way he does things about business.
Probably.
But yeah, probably the best that there is right now. Ed Milet has a great thing about that. Ed interviewed him once, and he goes, you're the best right now. And he's like, right now, but I was the best once. And so was this guy. So was this guy. Like, there's always an it person in the market. Right now it's Hormozi. He's the guy. But also, I don't want to be Alex Hormozi in the way that he doesn't have hobbies, doesn't really have friends, doesn't have kids, nor does he want kids, doesn't have faith in anything, is cynical, and is probably generally a depressed, horrible, miserable person.
He looks miserable.
He looks miserable.
He does.
Right? I know. I'm sorry if that's not you, and you're watching this episode right now, Alex.
I love Alex.
But I love that. But if by getting in proximity to Alex is actually one of the reasons why I haven't paid to go to his class in Vegas. I haven't had him on the podcast. I mean, would I love to do it? Would he have a great time? Yeah, we'd have a great time. I'm sure I'd learn a lot from him. I just want to be careful that I'm not leeching the wrong aspects from people. So I look at holistically a person of who I want to be more like. And this is where like maybe, and again, I don't know that much about Ed Milet, but I look at Ed and I'm like, I like his stance on faith and on family. I love how he treats his kids and raises his kids. I love how he looks at business. Okay, I'm going to lean more into Ed than I would Alex. I don't want to be Alex. I want to be Ed.
Right.
So we have to be careful with proximity is power, because it is.
Power.
It's just, again, it's not always good power.
Yeah.
And so be careful who you look at the holistic life of somebody before you decide you want to be them.
Totally. Yeah. I agree. Because there's some people that you could admire in one area, but not in all the others.
Yep.
And like, Alex Hormozi is definitely a good example of that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull what I can. But I'm gonna leave what I don't want.
He says he's happy and he doesn't want to change how he is. So great for him.
Yeah, great for him. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, I don't either. And so maybe some people do. And
so I can read his book. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I think the difference is like I don't want to obsess about Hormozi in the way that I might obsess about Ed Milet
or Tony
Robbins.
Yeah, because they're more balanced in all aspects.
Exactly, they're a lot more balanced.
Yeah. And I think you can still learn great stuff from Alex. Like I've learned so many great lessons.
Much.
I think subconsciously being in proximity with those people, you probably like if I hung out with Alex for too long, I would probably be too business obsessed.
Agreed. Yep. I agree.
But if I hung out with Tony I'd be more obsessed in all aspects of being better.
Yeah.
So I think you can definitely learn from everyone, but be careful. Yeah. Like you said. I love that. What have you been learning lately, and from who? You mentioned Dan Martell.
Yeah. I love Dan Martell. I like to drop his name and say he's a friend of mine, but I don't know if he'd consider me a friend, but I'm going to call him a friend. I love Dan. The idea of elevating your leadership abilities is something I'm trying to lean into more. Again, being more of a leader and rather than a doer. I tend to just like get in and do stuff sometimes. It's my integrator background.
Yeah.
Learning a lot about like how to how to enjoy food and drink, like just like enjoying food, like what I eat and drink every day, to enjoy it, but also not like how to do it by being in shape. That's something I want to like continue to get better at. I'm learning a lot about this year. Like what does that
enjoy?
take?
What do you mean by that?
I just mean like for example,
like not scarf it down.
Yeah, I want to be able to enjoy pizza with my kid and a donut occasionally.
Yeah,
I don't want to get fat and have a heart attack. How do you balance those two things? And so learning to balance that and what that looks like and how I have to work out harder if I'm going to do stuff. So that's like something I'm just learning how to navigate, because there are people who like eat so healthy and clean and they're probably going to live to 120 and good for them. I don't want to be them. Like I don't want to eat kale salad for dinner every single day. I want to enjoy life. And so anyway, that's something I'm learning. Learn how to be a better husband. I feel like I'm not a great husband, generally speaking, because I work a lot. And I'm always thinking about work. So I've been doing a lot of work lately and trying to figure out like, what does that mean to be a good husband at this phase of life when you have little kids? Yeah. You heard that Esther Pearl quote? She's like a psychologist or whatever, like a therapist, but she says in your marriage or in your life, you'll have, I think it's 5 marriages. I hope they're all to the same person. And I love that idea that like your marriage is like, you're about to go through this, right? Like the marriage you have had for the last few years is almost over. And like, you're going to have a new one. Kids, once you have kids, it's a different marriage. Wow. And so people lose it in the transitions. And they lose their marriage in the transition. So the first transition is having kids typically. And the second transition is your kids oftentimes like, I don't know, whether it's like teenage years, right. It's like now they're self-sufficient, and then it's like empty nester, and then it's old age. And people lose it in the transitions, especially like kids out of the house. That's where most people get divorced, is like a lot in that phase. And a lot of people get divorced when you have kids. So learning how to be a better husband in the transition, in this phase of our second marriage, which is you little kids and completely selfless living, which, I mean, you're never completely selfless, but my entire life is about my children. And how do you navigate that
while still keeping
exactly? It's a hard walk.
I love that.
Yeah.
One thing that Date with Destiny talks about is he basically draws these 3 circles. So you have a big circle, medium, and small. And he's like, you have 3 things to put in each of these circles. I want you to put the thing that's the biggest priority as in the biggest circle, medium, second, smallest, third. And the 3 things you can put in those circles, number 1 is work. 2, personal time, hobbies, exercise, whatever, personal development. 3rd is your marriage. What do you put in those 3? And for me, it was personal, 1, because Jim Rohn always says work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because if you level up, your work will level up as a byproduct, right? I think most people Tony Robbins put work as priority. All these hungry, crazy mother freakers, right? And then personal second, and then marriage third. And he's like just asking people what they put in their circles and why. And he's just like smirking to himself, right? And what he says is if you prioritize and put your marriage as number 1, that will make you show up better in your personal life and at work.
Yeah, I agree.
Because how shitty do you show up at work if your wife's mad at you?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it affects everything in your life.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything. Like, how do you show up as a dad if your wife's mad at you? Like, you can't function.
Yep.
And so that was such a cool lesson for me, is I'm like, oh, freak.
Yeah.
Like,
I need to prioritize this.
Haven't prioritized. Like, I put myself and my work before my wife. How screwed up am I? So I love what you said about that. But like, I feel like Date with Destiny, my gosh, dude, Tony, you better promote me, bro. Like, you need I need to start getting commissions on.
You should get commissions on.
I freaking am your number 1 fan. So you better have me on. Let me interview on my podcast someday. But dude, that event shaped, like, me and my wife are in the best place we've ever been. And it's only because of Date with Destiny.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like
Maybe I'll try to bring Heather too sometime.
Dude, you should bring Heather.
We'll see. You
could try and bring her next year. If not, anyway.
We'll see.
No, super powerful. And then, the platinum comes with that relationship trip that people swear by.
Yeah. So, I've heard actually good things about that trip.
Yeah.
So. Maybe I'll join platinum. it's hard with little kids. You know, you have to pick your battles. It's going to get even worse for you. Yeah, you got a couple years before your kids like awake enough to know that you're gone.
Right.
But like once your kids know, like my kids now know that I'm gone and it hurts them and they're sad. It's like, Yeah, you really like everything gets reprioritized. It's like what is actually important. And then there's like certain things, like for example, I really want to see the pyramids at Giza. Would love to go to Egypt.
Yeah.
Those will be there in 20 years.
Right.
But my kids won't be. And so like right now it's
just
kids.
Picking, yeah.
And now obviously I can take them with at some point we'll go there. But
right.
like just everything becomes does this have to be done now or later?
But also quality over quantity.
Yes, 100%.
Because like I think you'd show up differently as a dad. And I think that week, a month that you'd be gone for an event.
Yeah.
Like obviously,
you'd be better overall.
Like, I'm just telling you. Like,
I agree. You'd be a better dad when you come home.
You'd be a better husband.
But what's hard is like, I mean, like, yeah, this is just a constant battle with everybody that's into personal development. Is like, I'm in like, for example, I'm in GoBundance, which I mentioned. Yeah. I'm in a group called Front Row Dads, which is great. You should join once you become a dad.
What is it? Front Row Dads?
Front Row Dads. Cool. It's just all entrepreneurial dads and like all the topics about how to be a better dad. It's so good. So Front Row Dads is great. I'm in that. I'm in the Better Life Tribe. I got my group, the 50.
You're
and then it's like, I want to
busy.
do, so it's like, at some level, they're all, like I said earlier, all of it works. All of it on average makes you wealthier. But when you do all of it, you become collectively worse. And so
it's good, better, best though.
Yeah.
What's the best, Brandon?
That's the question. And I do believe like things like Date with Destiny, or like that is one of the large rocks. You know, like the metaphor of like you put big rocks in a jar. Yeah. Like that's one of the big rocks in the jar is going to be a Tony Robbins event. You know, one of the reasons why too, and this one might be more of Unleash the Power Within. I don't know. But I struggle with like just daily energy a lot. And I know he talks a lot about energy management and state and all that. I don't know if Date with Destiny does that. Does he?
All of the events he talks about state.
Like I think that would just be, I would love to know more of that. So yeah,
dude, I'm so pumped for you to come. You should come in November. Me and Zeke are literally going to UPW 2 weeks. Not next week, but the next. Where's it next week? 13th?
Yeah, I might have a baby anytime in the next 6 weeks. We could have one tonight. Brandon. Who knows?
Dude, it's gonna be fun. Because like I think, like I was talking to Dave Allred about this at the house. I'm like, what like coaching things are you in right now? He's like, I'm in this. He's like, honestly, I only need to be in like one.
Yep.
Like I really need less is more.
Yes.
Right. Like, and that's what it's talking about. And 2x is better than 10x. Less is more.
Yeah, I agree.
Random question. So Chandler Smith, he had you on his YouTube channel. You guys should go check it out. Chandler Smith, shout out. Yogi Myers interviewed you over Zoom. And they asked you at the end, they said, if you had to choose between real estate investing and social media, what do you choose? And you immediately said social media.
Yeah.
Why? And what advice do you have for people if they want to grow their social media in 2024?
Yeah, social media is just so good for the ego. If you want to, just kidding. I mean, it is maybe, but it's also terrible. Social media allows you to scale the know, like, trust factor better than anything in human history. And so, know, like, and trust factor being people who know you, like you, and trust you will do business with you. And so, social media has allowed us to scale that in which is an unprecedented way. And so, if you are good at social media, you can be good at anything. You can launch any business, whatever. Now, that's not true. I mean, like if I was a social media guy who just like had a pet raccoon who could dance, like, okay, that doesn't really do anything for me. So it's the right kind of social media I would care about. I want intelligent, smart, wealthy people to follow me for a reason that I can then deliver them a solution. That's the key, right? So if I was super hot girl, I might be posting bikini pictures because I know that they're going to deliver me value and give me money to follow my OnlyFans. Now, don't do that. It's terrible. But like, that's the idea is like, I want to attract the right type of person who's going to give me money because I can solve one of their problems. Now, that's why I have an OnlyFans for my feet, because there's a lot of people out there who just... No, I don't. Wouldn't that be great, though? Yeah. I've thought about, like, I've had this conversation with a number of real estate, like, friends of mine that are all influencers, David Green being one of them. I'm like, we should all make OnlyFans. And just...
You get like, some weirdos going.
Yeah, just because it would be funny, we all have an and we start telling everyone, follow me on OnlyFans. And there's nothing but real estate content there, but, like, everyone would be like, you have an OnlyFans? But if we all did it, it wouldn't be...
As weird.
It is weird. It'd just be funny. Anyway, I don't have an OnlyFans, but you get the idea, right? So I want the right people following me for the right reasons in a way that I can monetize them down the road. And I think I've done that better than many people. I think Grant Cardone's probably the best at that on the internet that I've seen. And he became a billionaire in just a few years by doing so. I mean, when I had him on the podcast first time, he wasn't that guy. He had $100 million in real estate that he owned, was not close to being a billionaire. Now supposedly he's a billionaire. I've never seen anybody go that quick, other than like maybe a startup founder, like, Zuckerberg. But like, it's wild what he did with social media. And so I saw that, and
he's very contradicting, and which made him go viral though. But also, I lost trust in him. So what do you think about that?
I think a lot about that. Actually, I interviewed a buddy on. No, I shouldn't say I interviewed him. I was on a panel, and we were chatting. Me and him were chatting on a panel, and I said something. He goes like this. He goes, "We're talking about like the fact that you have to be controversial on social media for it to go anywhere." And he goes, "Yeah, like the burst strategy." He's like, "You've all heard me talk about the burst strategy. I hate the burst strategy. It's the worst thing in the world. If you do the burst strategy, by the way, for those who don't know the terminology, burr basically means it's like flipping a house, but instead of selling it, you keep it. So you fix it up, you hold on to it. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat." Burger. Anyway, he's like, "I hate the burst strategy. I tell everyone they're stupid if you do it. It's the worst idea in the world. It's terrible. Never do it. Evil, awful, horrible." And he goes, "I've done 20 burrs this year. I can't talk about it because it wouldn't sell. I have to be opinionated." And I'm like, "I hate you." And I'm like, "I hate you and I hate that." And he goes, "I hate that too." But it works.
You lose trust, right?
You do, but at the same time, he's making probably more money than any real estate influencer in the world right now.
Wow.
So it's like, it's a weird game. It's a weird thing in that you have. I mean, Donald Trump is a great example of it. Like Donald Trump just says the most stupid things, but because it goes viral. It goes viral. And so, I mean, my biggest posts of all time, all my biggest reels are always me saying something somewhat controversial.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Like I said, like one video, I was like, if my kid gets a dirtbag friend and I can't sever that relationship, like he just keeps going back to him, I will move. I will pack my family up and leave town to get my kid away from a bad influence.
Because proximity is not power in that point.
I will, it's a very bad power. It's an evil power. And so I will take my kid from that proximity. That post goes so viral every time I post it because people get so angry because it's controversial. Like you're babying your kid and your kid's never going to learn and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm just going to keep leaning into it. When I talk about homeschooling, like I made a post one time, I said, it's funny because the homeschool kids back when I was a kid, homeschoolers were the weird ones. Now, my kid's over there like riding a bike down the street, like having a great time. And then there's a kid across the street, like in a sweatshirt, 90-degree weather, wearing 3 masks. And like, which one's the public school kid? It's the one wearing the 3 masks that can't talk to anybody and there's antisocial. I'm like, how did that switch? Like, how did the homeschool kids become the normal ones and the public school kids are all the weird ones, the antisocial, like weird mental problems? I'm like,
furries.
Homeschool your kids. I say that now. Now, part of the reason I say that is like, yes, I believe it, but it's also like going to get me a lot of reactions. So we put this clip on social media. It's going to do really well because I'm going to get people in the comments like, "This guy's an idiot. Yeah, he's so stupid. No, you're stupid. No, you're the best." And then they just tear each other apart, and I just sit back and make money. And now you can go to the extreme. I have a friend who she's a good-looking female, and she had a boyfriend who ran some like adult film company. And so to promote it, she went streaking across a European soccer field during a soccer game and got arrested. And she got 4 million followers on Instagram after that. She's great. But now she's trying to teach real estate investing a little bit. But like nobody takes her seriously because she has 4 million followers who are all just like European soccer fans that like hot women. And so like the audience is useless if it's not the right person. Now, if she had an OnlyFans, which she doesn't, thank God, but like if she did, it'd probably do really well. Yeah. So it's just like knowing your audience, knowing your
and know what kind of content you want to make.
What kind of content you want to make,
to attract a certain type of audience.
Yeah. So long story short, your question is like, yes, it's super important. I think you have to know your audience. And then when it comes to like the best thing is like, I'm a big believer in niching down to the smallest possible niche you can before you expand. So, and I'm not saying like go to like, oh, I'm going to talk about raccoon dancing because then there's like 9 people in the world. You need a big enough audience. But if you were like, hey, whatever, let's just say, here's a good example. No, like somebody could do this. Somebody can listen to the podcast and run with this. I teach, like, have that thing. I teach or I demonstrate, I show blank. I teach 7-figure entrepreneurs how to offset their taxes via real estate. If that was your niche.
Put that in your bio.
You put that in your bio, literally. I would write that in my bio. And then if that was all your content was generally around that, yes, that's not a huge audience. You're not going to go super viral on any post, most likely. However, you're going to get thousands of people who are going to follow you, who are your perfect rich 7-figure entrepreneur who want to reduce taxes. And that's all you teach, how to reduce taxes. And then when you charge it, you can charge $50,000 for a mastermind that teaches people how to reduce their taxes using real estate. And you might get 100 people to sign up for it. And all of a sudden you're at $5 million a year and you only need 100. right? Like, isn't that a wild, like
mind blowing?
Yeah. Alex Hormozi makes this point actually in $100 million offers. He says, if you go to somebody and you're like, I'm a consultant, you're worth $100 an hour. If you're like, I'm a consultant to business people, now you're maybe $500 an hour. I'm a consultant to business owners, $1,000 an hour. I'm a consultant to business owners who run education companies, $10,000 an hour. I'm a consultant that does owners of businesses that do education companies that do $100 million a year or more in revenue. $100,000 an hour. And so like, in other words, the more, now the advice never changes in there. Like you're a consultant and you're a consultant to that specific type of person. Your skill set, your frameworks, nothing would actually change in there. It's the way you market changes in there. Now, again, you can go to extreme and be like, business owners who have raccoons that dance, and that's never going to go anywhere. So you find that thing that's just big enough, just small enough, but not too small to make people, every single person that comes across you go, that is my guy. And this is what works so well for me at real estate, like before BiggerPockets. I didn't get to this part of my story, but before BiggerPockets, in that phase where I was obsessed with internet blogging, I had a blog called Real Estate in Your 20s. I was real estate investing for people in their 20s. It's still there today. You can go look at my old blog post, realestateinyour20s.com, all spelled out. And I just wrote blog posts. But I was the only guy on the internet in their 20s that was saying, I'm the real estate investing guy in your 20s. And it was literally in the domain name that anybody in their 20s goes, that's my guy. I'm going to follow him. And so there's still people today that follow me that are like, I've been following you since Real Estate in Your 20s. And I'm like, that's because I identified a niche and a need. And those people have grown up with me now, and now they've invested in my deals. And a lot of my investors are because they've been following me since then. There.
Wow.
Is that helpful?
So much gold right there. Like, guys, go rewind that whole thing because it's powerful. And I feel like I love what you said about like finding your niche and finding your customer and like really making sure you know your customer and like know who you're making content for and what kind of customer you're trying to attract.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost wonder, I'm like proximity is power. Great name. Love the podcast name. Could you narrow that down more? Who is for? Like, if you were like proximity is power, we're the show for door-to-door salesmen to learn how to blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden you're like, oh, like, yes, you're eliminating 99% of your audience.
Yeah.
But you're building rabid fans on the 1%. And I'm not sure that's the answer is door-to-door. It might not be. And there are people who can go more general. I mean, like the Ed Milet's and the Tony Robbins, they go more wide. But they probably didn't start that way.
Yeah.
First of all, Ed was big in that financial industry,
Business,
right? And
yeah.
And then he broadened. Anyway, it's something for you to think about. Is there a way to niche down a little bit more? Now, maybe like...
Because that's why I kind of like proximity is power.
Yeah.
Because I can interview people in any...
Correct.
...field that's crushing it. But I get what you're saying. Like
it's going to be harder to scale. And so the way you make up for that is honestly just cult of personality, which goes to the second point I'll make around social media. 99.9% of all social media accounts are just not good. Most people on social media are not good. And when I say not good, I'm not saying good people. They're just not entertaining is the best word I can say. Tony Robbins has a lot of smart things to say. Tony Robbins is also freaking charismatic. He is a very powerful force in a room and on a podcast. And when you hear him, his voice, everything, right? If he did not have that, he would not be who he is today. Doesn't matter how good his frameworks are in his education. He would not be that guy because there's 100 other people probably that have just as good of frameworks as Tony Robbins. 1,000 other people.
I don't know about that, but
maybe not. But you know what I mean? Like he's got both the experience of 30, 40 years of compound effecting. He's got the actual frameworks and the knowledge, and he's got the personality. Most people lack the personality. And so one thing Josh and I did with the BiggerPockets podcast, and now today I try to do with Cam, did you notice like we did our intro, it's like we start making this little chit chat, we're talking. Even do you notice like when I came on this podcast just now, you hit the table to start and I became a different person. Like I'm a little more animated. I'm not normally this talkative, this animated, this big. When I'm on stage, I'm this character. In reality, when we were talking before, it was like, yeah, what do you think? I mean, this is about what we were talking, right?
Right.
It's just normal people talk. But then you get on the podcast and you start getting bigger.
Wow.
So anyway, when it comes to social media, you just have to be, I feel like 10 times bigger than what you think you should be. And that's everything with social media. Alex Hormozi is the same way. He's not charismatic like I'm charismatic in terms of like the big loud, but there's a presence to him that is intense and everyone wants to follow. Ed
like
Milet,
the wise old guy.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got that thing.
Huh.
So it shows that it's not necessarily volume, with him, it's intensity. With Ed Milet, it's volume and intensity.
It's a character.
It's a character.
Yeah.
And every influencer that I'm friends with and I've talked, we all talk about this same. It's like you press a button or you flip the switch and we are acting. Josh Dorkin and I used to talk about that. It's like we had our Brandon Turner and then there's Brandon Turner. And it's an acting, but it's not fake. I call it intentional authenticity, right? So intentional authenticity is you're being authentic to who you are. You're just being intentional about pushing it. And so like I deliberately have a conversation with Cam about our kids. Why? Because I want people to fall in love with me as a person and to get to know me better. So social media most people are way too bland, way too vanilla, way too boring. And
get controversial,
get loud, or get intense, or get something that makes you stand out,
or get left behind,
That's what it is. Same with podcasting. Like there's a million podcasts. How do you stand out? You got to be entertaining,
and you got to get great people on.
Brandon
Turner, baby.
There you go.
No, I love that. I just got so many ideas, and I'm gonna go listen to this again and take a bunch of notes. But no, it was honestly so shocking for me to hear that from you about how you've prioritized, like you pick social media over.
Yeah.
But basically, like if you have a million people that know, like, and trust you through social media, any business, anything you're doing will be better.
Yeah.
Because
social media this is a crude metaphor, but I'll use it. Social media is like having large breasts for a woman, right? Everything is easier in life. Like when you're a hot girl,
where did you hear this from? I love that.
You made it up. When you're just a really ridiculously hot girl with good assets, everything is easier. People open doors for you, and sales guys will discount everything for you. And those girls just walk through life like life is so easy. I don't know why you all complain about life being hard, because for them life is easy. Having a large social media following is just like that. Everything opens for you. Everything is easier. All doors, all people, connections. You're just a hot girl when you have a large social media. So building social media it's not required. There are plenty of ugly women who have made it successful in this life.
Yeah.
But when you're a hot woman, everything's easier.
You want to know why? I love that analogy, by the way. Dude, Brandon Turner is the king. Analogies and metaphors. He's like Jesus.
David Green's better than me. I'm gleaning off David Green.
No, you're freaking good. Genius. But I was just thinking, like, the reason I honestly started Proximity is Power is because I wanted proximity with higher power people.
Yeah.
And like, what do people want? Like you or Alex or Tony, more eyeballs.
Yeah.
And like, if I can focus on social media and actually build a good podcast, that opens the door to more proximity with higher power people.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 100%.
Does that make sense? Because if like right now, like Alex would never agree to be on a podcast with me because he's very like transactional in the fact that he's just, if it doesn't help him hit his purpose of growing his business, he's not going to do it. And so like, I need to go step up and really play social media at a higher level for me to get the audience that he would then be more open to, does that make sense?
Yeah. 2 thoughts on that real quick. One, so 100% proximity, like on a podcast when you're connecting with people. And this applies to a lot of areas. Like you pay to be in a room, let's just say, let's try to make this more to everybody listening to the podcast, but for you as well, you either pay to be in a room or you interview somebody in a podcast. That gives you an opening into connecting with them, but it doesn't make you friends with them, right? So what makes you, now I have never texted Patrick Bet-David or talked to him after the event. I've not talked to Jocko. He didn't text me back, right? I've not talked to Matthew McConaughey. Grant Cardone. I've never reached out to Cardone. I don't have friendship with them, with any of the celebrities that I've interviewed, because I'm not good at what I'm about to say. And that's what David Green is exceptional at. So David Green, first time he was a guest on my podcast, he was just a normal cop doing real estate. And we brought him on the show because it was a cool story, cop doing real estate. David comes on, did a great job, made a lot of laughs, had a connection, just like I have with 500 other guests. At the end of the show, and David's going to hate that I told this secret because this is his secret.
I've heard this. Yeah. Okay, yeah. It's so great.
He goes, hey man, that was a great show, man. Loved it. He's like, oh, it was awesome. Hey, let me get your cell phone number. I'm going to text you something. And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm feeling real good about it, right?
Yeah.
Give him my cell phone number. And then he texts me some stupid GIF or like we connected.
Memes.
Memes. We bonded over Step Brothers. And then he followed up consistently over the next 3-4 months, just sending me once like every couple of weeks, some stupid Step Brothers quote or meme or something funny or something I might be interested in, and was just building a relationship. And there's a great story, unrelated, but to Dave, it's related to David. There's a bunch of UFC fighters, a bunch of famous UFC fighters sitting around a table one time at this charity auction for UFC, for the big fighters. And some of the, like these big famous like UFC fighters, some of the biggest in the world, sit at a table and they're waiting for the show to go on, and they're all sitting there texting, and somebody says something like, one of the guys, and I hear this because one of them's a buddy of mine, one of them turns to the other one and goes like, oh, who are you texting or something like that? And he goes, oh, it's a guy, you don't know him. It's a real estate guy. And he goes, real estate guy? I'm literally texting a real estate guy right now. And the guy goes, who are you texting? And he's like, David Green. And the other guy goes, I'm texting David Green. 2 more guys at the table going, I'm texting David Green right now. There was like 4 dudes of the biggest UFC fighters in the world texting David Green all at the same time because they were bored. Why? Because David Green is freaking good at building a relationship with people after an event. Staying in touch. So at some level, he got into their world, paid to be in a room, whatever, became friends with them. Now he built a relationship. In not such a dissimilar way of like, you got my cell phone number. Yeah. You've texted me a couple times. I have. Book recommendations. Happy Halloween, baby. Right? Yeah. Happy Halloween. Yeah. You just maintain. So I'm not good at that. David Green's very good at that. Yeah.
It's work.
It's work. Yeah. It's very much work.
It's intentional work.
It is intentional work. And so it's like, hard. If I was going to be really good at this, I would have a CRM. I would put every single one of these people in it. I'd have reminders that told me to follow up with them every few weeks. Wow. And I would just treat it like a business.
I love that.
Russell Brunson, who made ClickFunnels, has a book out there called Traffic Secrets. And his whole thing in there is like, he calls it it comes from Chet Holmes' $100 million, Ultimate Sales Blueprint, I think it's called. Have you read that one? It's a great book. Chet Holmes, he's died now, but he has a book called The Ultimate Sales Blueprint, I think. Or Ultimate Sales Machine. I can't remember. Anyway, in there, he talks about the Dream 100. Russell Brunson takes the same idea. You have 100 people you want to build a relationship with on social media. You unfollow everybody else except for those 100. You turn on post notifications for every single one of them. So Alex Hormozy, Ed Milet, Brandon Turner, whatever. Right. And then every time they post, you jump in there. Right away, you get a notification and you go and comment on their stuff. You interact with him. You build a relationship. Eventually, you go to an event. You meet them there.
You add value.
You add value. Yeah. These 100 people are your targets, and you just
nail them.
Yeah. Respectfully and slowly.
In a good way.
And you just get them, and eventually you'll find that you're sitting at a table with a dozen of them at an event because you built it. Now, you can be real evil about this, and get into like any room really just by doing this. The second thing I'd say is this, like, why did I invite you to come on the Better Life podcast? And then did I say yes to come on your podcast? Yeah. Like, I have no idea how many people listen to this show, but it's probably fairly irrelevant to me. Like, I would assume this sounds bad. I take the assumption nobody listens to it at all. You've never had a single listen, right, except for your mom. That's it. Right?
It's true. Shout out, Mom.
Or it could be 100,000 people. I don't know, but the fact I assume I will take the assumption. I generally just assume no one listens to anything ever.
Right.
I say no to most podcast requests, but the simple truth is I just liked you. I just thought you were a cool guy. I'm like, I like this guy. We could hang out. We'd have fun. It just goes to what you talked about on my podcast is people like to do business with people they like. Mm-hmm. It just comes down to that. I'm just like, I like this guy. Yeah. He's cool. David Green, I just like the guy. Cool. And I hope Ed Milet just someday likes me. And so just, that's a huge piece of it too, besides being connected. I know we're going way off left field of the topic,
this is so gold.
Yeah, you just need people to like you. And how do you do that? Just by being intentional and just being funny authentic. And being authentic and asking questions. Yeah. Not being weird and can I massage you?
When I first met you, you probably thought I was so weird though. I didn't. I was starstruck.
No.
I was like,
no, not at all.
No, that's cool.
But what I liked is that you actually did real estate.
And I had invested in your fund.
And you invested in my fund. That was huge.
So that helped.
That was huge.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have said yes if I had done that.
No, I would have. But it's mad because it's like you provided real value. Yeah. There's that law of reciprocity. You heard of that? Mm-hmm. It's like, when you do, there's a reason. You ever seen those guys at like airports that like give you flowers? Mm-hmm. And then they ask for a donation because they've done the studies and like people have an innate need to give back to you when you do something nice for them. This is like the giftology whole thing. A guy named John Rulli, and he passed away recently, but his whole thing is like just do extravagant gifts for people with no ask at all. It's just extravagant good gifts to people. They will always feel like they owe you in a subconscious way. You're not manipulating. You're just literally just building value. Giving.
No, anyway. I love that. Jeff Mendez, shout out. He talks about how 99% of people, the problem that the mistake they make when they're trying to network is they get into relationships to get.
Yeah, agreed.
And I agree 100%. And I feel like that was me for a while. And like, I'd like beg these people to go to lunch and just say, hey, like, I'm going to buy you lunch. Like, don't be a dick to not to say no to me, you know? But like, what's changed is like when I do meet someone now, I literally go into the relationship. How can I serve this person the most? Like, how could I add the most value to this person? And I feel like going into relationships with the intent of serving first is super key.
Agreed. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I don't play the celebrity game. Like I don't build relationship with Jocko and with McConaughey and all them. Is I hate that I don't actually, this sounds terrible. I'm going to say, I don't actually want to be friends with them. I have enough friends. I don't need more friends.
Yeah.
So like, I look at my inner like reason for that. Like when I'm like, I kick myself over like, oh, I really should have followed up with Jocko more. And I bet I could have been friends with him. And I'm like, why would I want to be friends with him? There's only one reason. One reason really, it's ego. I just want people to think I'm cool because I'm friends with Jocko. And that's a terrible reason. And then once I realize that, then I'm like, okay, well, there's no reason to build that relationship. I don't need any, like, it doesn't benefit me or him or the universe for me to be friends with Jocko. And so,
why I want to be friends with Brandon Turner?
Why is that?
2 reasons. One is like, I think you're freaking awesome and I aspire to be like you. Ever. Yeah. I think you're really cool. And I'd want to be more like you. So I'd say that.
And that's a good reason.
Yeah. I'd say like, I want to be more like you. Because if I'm more like you, I can go help the people in my life at a higher level. But the second reason I'd say is I do think I could help you too. Like I do. I think me selling you on Tony Robbins and like, I think I'm very growth hungry and impact contribution focused. And I think we both are. So I think we can both help each other, like do what we want to do.
I agree. We're doing it.
This is freaking insane. This is the best podcast. Like my goal when interviewing Brandon is I wanted to make it the best podcast you've ever been on. Like the best.
Number one.
Oh, we're gonna wrap up.
Have I ever been on another podcast? This is all I can think about. This is the best thing I've ever done.
That's awesome.
This is a good show. I blacked out for the last hour and a half. I have no idea what just happened.
What are we talking about?
I have no idea where I am. Who are you?
Do we still got time, right? Yeah.
We have all the time in the world. We don't have to watch election coverage until
5 o'clock. Okay, sick. We're gonna keep rolling because we're halfway.
Your audience is like, oh no.
No, this is Joe Rogan. Phenomenal. Oh. Okay, here we go. Who are some of the big mentors along the way and why?
Josh Dorkin for sure. BiggerPockets.
Why?
Josh Dorkin taught me that when you have 1 million people who know, like, and trust you, you can do anything. Like that was his, like, he didn't say it in those that elegant of words. Yeah. I've had a lot of time to think about it, but I told him that when I was blogging out realestateinyour20s.com, I said, he's like, so what are your plans with that? First time I ever talked to him on the phone. And I'm like, oh, I'll probably like, sell like a little course on how to do real estate. And he goes, okay, yeah, you could do that. That'd be fine. Or you could get thousands or millions of people to trust you and to like you and to know you, and you could serve them. And the rest of your life, you'll never have to worry about money again. And that's basically what he said. And that just blew my mind. That idea. Like most people want to make the quick buck and have the course quickly to make a little bit of money.
Immediately sell something.
Yeah, immediately sell. And I'm not opposed to selling things, but there's such value in trust.
Yeah.
I want people to trust me because I'm a trustworthy person and I have to demonstrate that. And you give to be able to do that. As soon as you start taking, and this is a real problem actually, like I lost a lot of reputation and credibility over the last few years. Not a lot, but I've lost some, I believe, because of how much I've been asking. What I mean by that is like promoting my fund and then promoting Better Life and then First Deal and the 50. And I have a lot of products. And on one hand, I'm like, well, all of them are valuable and people should have them all.
Right.
But when people see my stuff on Instagram now, it's just like scroll by it. And so I've learned. Gary Vaynerchuk has a great book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. And the whole idea is like you give, then you ask. And that ratio got out. It should be like 95% give and then 5% ask. And I feel like my Instagram over the last few years.
Hook.
Yeah, it's way too many hooks. And it's because I have a bunch of companies and everybody just relies on my face and my ads to grow them. And because that's...
So you feel like it kind of hurt your brand?
It hurt my brand a little bit, I think. Yeah, because what it is that not that people are like, oh, I don't like Brandon, and maybe people don't like a lot of people don't like me, I'm sure, but it was that you're scrolling Instagram and you see an ad from Brandon, which everyone listening is going to start seeing ads from me. We do spend a lot of money in ads, and you scroll right by because you don't care about that. And then you see an organic post of mine where I'm actually sharing good advice, and you scroll right past it because you assume it's an ad. You're subconsciously just like scroll swipe, next. That's a real problem. So we are trying to shift a lot of my social media strategy over to like just give. Maybe like for the next 6 months, like don't ask for anything. But then every company I've got, it's like, no, we need sales. We need this business. We need more loans. We need whatever. Quick, go make a post on Instagram. And then my social media team will just make a post. And I'm like, oh, like it's a balancing act.
Well, I think people naturally don't like salesmen.
Correct.
People do not like when I walk in neighborhoods.
Yeah.
They don't. Like I can wave and they're like, hi, you know. But like,
what's that phrase? Nobody likes salespeople, but everyone wants to be sold. Everyone wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold.
I love that. Yeah. But
people like to shop, they just don't want to be sold.
Right. But Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins say like, you can't serve people the most unless you sell them.
Yeah.
Like, because Better Life will change someone's life.
Yeah.
You know, and like, like they could just keep listening to podcasts and get great value and nuggets and book recommendations. But like, really, their life would change more if they spent the money and actually put skin in the game.
So yeah, that's where I think Gary Vaynerchuk, it's a good model. It's like give, then ask. You earn the right to ask.
Yeah.
And just don't abuse it.
I love that you learned that from Josh. And you know, when you did talk about how you prioritize social media over, if you had to choose one or the other, you choose social media over real estate. I'm like, okay, how much am I actually investing in real estate? And how much am I investing in social media? And it was like none in social media and a lot in real estate. And I'm like, freak, I need to mix it up. Like, so thanks for that.
Got you.
But who else? Josh Dorkin.
I mean, there's a million from afar. People like Tony Robbins, listening to some of his stuff. Ed Milet, for sure. Lewis Howes. I listened to a lot of his podcasts for a long time.
Cool.
Yeah, from like more of like a personal stuff, like my father-in-law is a real good, strong Christian guy, like that I look up to a lot. My own dad, super hardworking family guy that like, for example, all growing up, like he worked 6 days a week, a hard job, cutting meat, like standing up all day, serving customers. Like it was not a pleasant job, so to speak. And he worked a lot of hours to put food on the table, get every single Thursday. It was his only day off of the week. Every single Thursday, he would take one of us 4 kids to lunch, or he'd go to school and sit down at the cafeteria with us. And people would like make fun of like who's the dad here that's visiting, you know, like, and this is like all the way through middle school and primary school or elementary. And he would always make time for it. That was one day off a week. And now as a dad, I'm like, I don't work that much. Like I work maybe 30 hours a week right now combined between all my businesses. And I barely have time to take my kids to lunch ever. And like my dad worked 2 to 3 times more than I did, and he still made time. So that's that made a huge impact on me. It's just like seeing my dad like really prioritize that time, but also work his butt off to provide for the family.
I love that.
Yeah.
How has failure shaped your life?
I don't fail. Man, failure. It's a great question.
You haven't failed.
I failed a lot. I haven't had any monumental fail. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like I once flipped a house. I bought a duplex. I turned it into a single family. It's 3,000 square feet. I remodeled. I spent a whole year of my own time, my own sweat, blood, tears, fixing this house up. Sold it, and I lost $15,000 at the end of the day. It was the only flip I've ever lost money on, I think. And I just made a lot of stupid decisions in there, and I pushed my way through what I shouldn't have. And like my hard money lender was like, I'm not funding this deal. It's not a good deal. And I was like, screw you. I'll find another one. So I did. And that failure then taught me, well, let me backtrack. I lost $15,000. Had I kept the deal, I would have made $1,000 a month in cash flow. Today, that probably would be worth $500,000 more than I paid for it, or like what I had into it, $500,000. So I took that failure and I say, okay, well, what can I learn from that? And I'm like, well, first of all, rentals are way better than flips. Like, because rentals would have made me $1,000 a month. Like, instead of losing $15,000, I should have just kept it.
Ryan would fight you on that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he would, but yeah, he's wrong. Yeah. And then, so
he is wrong.
Yeah, yeah, he has his opinion. He's just wrong on him. Yeah. No, I rentals would have been great with that one. And then it's just a reminder that like real estate is a forgiving asset class. Hold it long enough, you'd be fine. So that's one example of a failure. I have failed in marriage. Like when my son was born, my wife and I went through like probably the hardest time of our marriage because neither of us were sleeping for 6 months. Like we just no sleep. He was the worst sleeper on the planet. We have a lot of PTSD around like the new kid coming because I'm like freaking out. Like, I hope this kid's better than he was, because Wilder would not sleep more than 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah, and he'd come get in your bed.
Yeah, and he would get in my bed. Yeah, like it was so bad from baby all the way up to like 3 years old. Anyway, so like as a failure there is like one, I didn't do the work. You've heard the story, but I didn't do the work to train my kid to sleep in his bed. I was too weak, and then I chose to run away, not like from the marriage, but I just worked. I buried myself in work instead of being there for my wife during what was arguably the hardest time of her life too, because she wasn't sleeping either. So I just wasn't around, and like I was always out with friends and always out hanging out with other people and working and networking and going to events and all that, because I just couldn't handle being at home with the kid crying all day long every single day. So again, taking that failure and saying, well, I'm an idiot. This time, like my wife and I are preparing for it. Like we're talking about it. What are we going to do? How are we going to prevent against that again this time if that's there? And hopefully it won't be as bad. But anyway, I mean, it's a cliche answer, but you take your failures and you learn from them. But those are a few examples of where I'm trying to get better.
I love that. Thanks for being vulnerable too. I'm not looking forward to the lack of sleep when we have our daughter.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's going to be fun though.
It's way harder on the wife though. So you'll be fine. Just ignore her and you'll be fine.
Just ignore the baby.
Yeah.
Babe,
you got
your job.
Babe.
I'm working today.
Yeah.
What are some things that you wish you would have known before you started your journey? Or are you glad that you were as naive as you were going into things?
I wish I would have known that there are different mindsets you can take to leadership. And what I mean by that is like, I kind of like, there's like 4 mindsets when it comes to leadership. There's a DIYer who says I can do everything myself. There's like a project manager mindset, which says, oh, I'll just hire my brother-in-law or my sister to manage this thing. I gotta like, you've done that. I've done that.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's, or like, I'm gonna hire the contractor, but I'm still involved. Then there's like the CEO level, which says I'm gonna build a company. We're going to have a hierarchy. We're going to have an org chart. We're going to have systems and processes. And then there's an architect. The architect is one who designs the machine or the business, but doesn't work in it. And so I started as a DIYer. I did everything myself. That whole year I spent on that flip that I lost 15 grand on, I was like flirting between a DIYer and a project manager because I did hire one guy to help me.
Where'd you learn that from?
That 4 mindset thing, just looking at the different career, like businesses I built.
Cool.
I realized like the reason, and I look at guys like Richard Branson, like when Richard Branson starts a new business, what does he do? He definitely isn't DIYing it.
He's a visionary.
Yeah, he's a visionary. He's the architect. He designs the idea or he buys a company, but he's never a part of the machine. I guess that to summarize it, the thing I wish I would have known is that you can build a machine without being a cog in it. And I didn't realize that until recently. So now when I build a business, I'm trying to build it without me being a cog in it. And it's hard, but it's doable. You just hire really good people and you learn how to hire, and wish I would have known that.
Yeah, because you're like the value of 10 good people. Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
I hope so. So like, and the companies need visionaries. They need leaders. They need architects.
So you wish you would have known that you could run a business without being a cog in it.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. What are some of your favorite habits right now?
I love habit tracking every morning. That's like my keystone habit. If I track my habits, everything in my life goes better. So that whole habit tracking thing we talked about earlier. I read to my kids every morning, like some Bible, like a chapter of their like kids' Bible. I love that little time. We just 10 minutes in the morning. Drinking electrolyte water, like Element, I think it's called.
Elementy.
Like that stuff. I love that stuff.
That's why I do coconut water.
The
best natural.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. Yeah. Stretching. I do Legree, which is like Pilates. It's for like hot women in spandex and me.
Nice.
It's great. Yeah. So I do that every couple times a day. I did this morning. It's like the hardest workout in the world for your lower body. It's great.
Your weekly massage.
Weekly massage. Wonderful. I get that on Saturdays. That's such a good thinking time, processing, whatever. I sort through a lot of crap on those massage times. Smoking meth. That's always kidding.
Cocaine.
Get a lot of cocaine. All the good habits. Whatever.
I love it. What's something that you've done that we should all do? Invest in real estate.
Invest in real estate. Take your spouse to Europe. Just go backpack Europe. I did
Have you done that?
For 3 weeks, yeah.
When did you do that?
Longer. When I was 24.
Cool. Where'd you go?
We flew into London. We did this, by the way, this whole trip, we did on $5,000. That includes flight and train tickets.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so we flew into London, took the train to Paris, took the train across the Swiss Alps, that fancy train right up there through the mountains.
Beautiful. Switzerland's insane.
Switzerland's insane.
Me and my wife just got back, actually. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
So pretty. It's like a fairy tale.
Yeah, it is.
You walk out.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's unreal. I would love to do it. I can't wait to do it again. The Glacier Express, they call it. And we ended in Italy, and we spent a week in Tuscany and then flew home from Rome. And it was just a magical trip that I'll never get to repeat again. And I would even say, you have to be careful and give this advice. I would even tell people to put that on a credit card if you don't have the money and just do it. Because you will, before you have kids.
Yeah.
Because you will have kids and you can't do it anymore. I mean, when your kids are older, you can go take a trip to Europe. It's not the same. Backpacking Europe and staying at hostels and doing that whole thing is something you can never get back until you're probably 70. It's, again, very different at that point. So that's what I'd recommend.
Totally. You can't do all the activities. You can't paraglide.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do all the stuff. But going, I wish, that was a great trip. That was the best trip I ever took.
So everyone should go travel.
Go travel.
Yeah. It broadens your perspective a lot.
It does.
Of how small you are, how big the world is. But and it's cool. 3, 2, 1 pivot. I stole this from you.
I love it.
3 books. Let's start there.
I'm going to go with one that you said, Compound Effect.
Great.
The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry from John Mark Comer. I love that book. And I'll say Rich Dad Poor Dad. I loved Rich Dad Poor Dad. I still love it. Actually, I'll say Cash Flow Quadrant, which is the sequel, the follow-up book.
Those good books. Yeah. Those are all good. 2 people.
I already mentioned my dad and Josh, so I'll pick something new. I mentioned my father-in-law. Jay Papasan, author of The One Thing. Every time I talk to Jay, I just come away changed. I love that man.
That book is so good.
That book is so good, yeah.
I had it on repeat because you you talked about how you had it on repeat. I'm going to go repeat that.
Like 10 or 12 times in a year I listened to that book.
Amazing, yeah.
I'm like, if I just get this one thing done, everything else would be easier. So I'd say Jay Papasan was a big influence on me. And I'll say David Green. David Green actually changed the destiny of the BiggerPockets podcast, not just by coming on board, but it was so loosely run until he heard me. He was visiting me. I was on vacation in Hawaii before I moved here. He was visiting, and I had to do a podcast. So he listened in the other room. And after we got done, he comes in. He goes, "What the hell was that?" The guest showed up with no mic. They didn't know what the show was about. There was no guide. There was no system. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, people are busy and it's hard." He's like, "You're the freaking BiggerPockets podcast. You're one of the biggest podcasts in the world. These people should be scared out of their mind that you're not going to air their show if they don't come prepared and dialed and amazing." And I was like, sitting up straight, I'm like, "You're right. I have an asset here that I always thought I was asking for favors." And I came in with that approach of I'm asking for a favor for somebody to come on my podcast. And he's like, he said, we rewrote all the emails and was like, "If you don't show up with good internet, if you don't show up with this, we will dump your show and you'll waste everyone's time." And we got aggressive about it. And the show just got way better in terms of quality and in terms of my enjoyment of the show. Cool. And so there's an inner belief. This goes to real estate, raising capital as well, or going door to door sales. It's if you go at it as you're asking for a favor, people can feel that. And it's like sharks and if you go in there confident and I own this place, you just put a gentle confidence,
fortune favors the bold.
Yeah, fortune favors the bold, man. Yeah. Go. So anyway, that David Green, he's changed my life in a lot of ways.
What gets you excited in life?
What?
What gets you excited in life?
Excited? I love teaching people stuff. I love doing webinars and Instagram lives. That's always fun. I like being on stage. I don't like traveling for speaking gigs, but I like actually being on stage. I love my kids laugh. It's so fun.
Okay, last question. If you had the world's attention for 1 minute, 2 minutes, what would you want them to know or what would you want to say?
Is it 1 or 2?
Let's say 1.
I'd want them to know that, let's see, how do I want to phrase this right? I want them to know that you can live a great life, an abundant life, one that is filled with joy and happiness and wealth, however you define that, and good health. You can literally have all of that. You don't have to be a passenger. You can drive and you can control so much more than what people think they can control. That's the first thing. And number 2, I'd want them to know that there's a God that loves them and that they should probably do something about that.
Wow. That's a great way to end it.
All right.
Well, where can people find you, Brandon?
Yeah, you can come to Maui and come hang out with me. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok.
Beardy Brandon.
My dances. Yeah, Beardy Brandon. Or you can follow me on my OnlyFans, Beardy Brandon's feet.
I'm so scared of that.
It's so good. It's those giant feet, we talked about
we saw
earlier.
your
Giant
footprint in the sand earlier today.
Yeah, you saw a footprint that was like 9 feet big. I don't know. That was my footprint.
That's awesome. Well, Brandon, you're awesome. And this has been
good.
One of my favorite episodes. And
good.
If you got value today, go share with a friend. And until next time, thanks again, Brandon.
Thank you.
Peace.